Recording in progress.
Okay, good evening and welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Petaluma City Council, the Petaluma Community Development Successor Agency for Monday, February 23rd. If you wish to provide a public comment on tonight's agenda, please fill out a speaker card. They're located in the hallway just outside the chamber, and bring it to our clerk up here in the front of the chamber. And please note that we have concurrent translation in several languages, Spanish included, available for all at this meeting. And to access the translation online, please use the link that's in the agenda paper we have, or online agenda. And in addition, we also have the QR code on the very modern accessibility here today. So let's see, may we have our roll call for the evening?
Barnacle.
Present.
Cater Thompson.
Here.
DeCarly.
Here.
Now.
Here.
Quint.
Here.
Shribs.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, please. Yeah, I'd like to note at this point that we'll be closing this meeting in honor of Jesse Jackson, our national leader who has died recently after a storied career of participation in government and trying to make America a better place. No better time to honor such a leader than during Black History Month, and during a time when some of those achievements, like the Voters' Right Act, are being reevaluated. And so we need to keep in mind all those whose shoulders we today stand on. So thank you. And that moves us to our agenda for tonight. And I look up and down the dais at this point and every meeting and say, are we going to adopt as is, or are there any changes? See Councilmember Quint.
Good evening, Mayor. I have a hard stop this evening at 9:30, and item 9 is of particular importance to me. If we can move that earlier in the agenda, I would appreciate it.
And I'm looking to see whether anyone has any concern with that or whether that can be handled. Okay, so let's move that last item up to be the first one of public hearings. And any other items on the agenda? Councilmember DeCarly?
Yeah, so I have a request. I put this in the form of a memorandum the other day, but let me first start by saying that I've called the FPPC and talked about the big points of this. They didn't see a conflict. I've looked up the FPPC guidelines and the laws surrounding this, and I was not provided an analysis of why I should have to recuse on this. And so because this particular property is more than 500 feet from my property, there's no materiality conflict, and I do not need to recuse myself. So I'm following the protocol to request that we open a discussion about placing a lien on the ECAM property to protect the public, as specified in that memorandum in detail. I'm only trying to protect the best interests of the public and serve the best interests of the city here as well. I realize that the city manager and city attorney have the final say in whether we discuss this or not, and I respect that. I'm just trying to follow the protocol myself because there's an enormous bill of nearly $1 million after it's all said and done that has not been paid for in the better part of 6 months.
Thank you. We did receive the letter. We did take a look at it. And my understanding from past recusals that you've made on the overlay district that you'd be recusing on this and not in an eligible position for submitting that request. If you've talked to the FPPC, I would love to sit down and see if we can move this the next step forward. I'm not sure that it's possible to discuss the actual fees at this time. Your projects are ongoing. But the main thing is, the city has a practice of collecting every debt owed to it. and it has the tools in it, and any permit that goes forward says, before you do anything, you pay your bills. So I have great confidence in what we're doing, but if we need to have an offline discussion to see where we take the matter next, we could do that.
Well, and that's correct. And my request is that we use those tools that the city does have at their disposal to make good on this. And at this point, we're looking at potentially doing a couple things, and even tomorrow night with HCPC, continuing to use staff time, meetings, commissioner time, council time. There's a lot more still going into it, yet the bill is still there.
Right, and the bill will likely be there. I mean, bills get collected often when the permit is issued. You try and keep current, but at the time, nobody gets to go to building without getting square first. So we have process for that, but let's have an offline discussion about it.
Yeah, well, I would like to see if we can have a council discussion as well. That was the point of the memorandum.
All right, let's take a look at what you've heard back from the FPPC and see if you can become a signature on the suggestion.
Okay, well, do city manager, city attorney have anything to say as far as Rule 2A and the section about city manager and city attorney finding a need for this to be agendized?
Mainly, it's the issue over the past recusals in the current proposal.
Right, but everything else was done in place to make this happen.
I've not reviewed it for that level of detail. Your request will come in, and then I'll have to see what can be addressed in a public forum and what doesn't get addressed in public forum. But I know at tomorrow night's meeting, the condition.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can add a couple remarks, but I don't want to interrupt you if you're not done.
No, this is a good time.
Thanks. So as the council knows, I've already advised regarding this issue, and I'm not at liberty to go into that advice because it's a privileged communication. But I think I can say, as a general matter, that the purpose of our advising about potential conflicts of interest with regard to any staff member, with regard to council members, with regard to subordinate body members, is always the same, and that is to provide the maximum ability that we can to legislative body members and staff to fully comply with their obligations under the ethical regulations, and we'll continue to do our best to fulfill those obligations. I do not have the information about what the vice mayor was informed by the FPPC and what was discussed and shared with them factually, because those are very fact-specific analyses they do, so I can't really comment on that. I can say that the mayor's absolutely correct in talking about how it is that the city is careful to ensure it recovers the charges that are due it with respect to development applications, and I've confirmed, and I have actually in front of me, the HSPAR condition of approval that will be part of the package considered tomorrow. It's provision 17. It's entitled Cost Recovery. It says, consistent with the cost recovery agreement filed with the HSPAR application, all review costs relating to the processing of the entitlements and amendments required for this project shall be paid in full prior to issuance of a building permit. And that's from the standard condition list that applies to HSPAR approvals, also to Planning Commission approvals, and for that matter, City Council approvals. So that's what I wanted to add. If there are any other questions, happy to address them.
Okay. So you and I have a chat offline about this. And with that, do we, the council, the agenda for tonight, as written, we've suggested modified, number 9 up to first meeting of the hearing. Is council generally in agreement with that? Is there any dissent on that? No dissent, and tonight's agenda is adopted with that one modification. And that brings us to our proclamations for the night, and it's always one of my favorite parts of the meeting. But I'd like to invite Ramona Faith, the CEO of Healthy Petaluma, our Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation, and Tammy Bender, our Heart Safe Community Program Manager, and Wendy. Is Wendy in the house? Yes, Wendy Aguano, the Heart Safety Community Program Coordinator, up to the podium to accept tonight's proclamation, which is designating Petaluma as a heart-safe community. And whereas the Healthy Petaluma District and Foundation Healthy Petaluma, was formed in 1946 by the will of the people, with board members locally elected and accountable for improving the health and well-being of southern Sonoma County. And whereas Healthy Petaluma serves as the leading organization providing backbone support for a community-wide heart-safe community initiative in collaboration with Petaluma Fire Department, the Rancho Adobe Fire Department, and Petaluma Save a Life, Saves Lives in Sonoma, Redcom 101, these are all organizations, Petaluma Valley Hospital, and the American Heart Association, as well as community volunteers to designate Petaluma as a heart-safe community. And whereas Healthy Petaluma works in partnership with Hearts of Sonoma County and a Heart Safe Community Advisory Committee to educate the community on heart health strategies. And whereas the goal of Heart Safe Community Program is to increase survival rates and reduce disability from sudden cardiac arrest by strengthening our community's response to cardiac emergencies through CPR, AED, and certification and training, strategic AED installation and maintenance, promoting heart-safe health education, and following the American Heart Association's links in the cardiac chain of survival. And whereas in cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the country and second leading cause of death in Sonoma County, and sudden cardiac arrest can happen anywhere, at any time, at any age, to any person. And a Heart Safe Community Action Plan was developed and implemented that has met established criteria for designation that supports the chain of survival, such as community education on the signs and symptoms of heart attacks, the importance of calling 911, and widespread community-based bilingual CPR and AED instruction, public access defibrillators, and AED maintenance plans. And now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McDonald, Mayor of Petaluma, along with all the members of the Petaluma City Council, do hereby continue to designate Petaluma as a heart-safe community and encourage all residents to learn the links in the chain of survival and other life-saving techniques to increase the chance of survival in the event of a cardiac arrest. Thank you all.
Yeah, we thank you so much. This is great. I remember some of you were here with our very first proclamation, and it's been wonderful. We've been expanding and getting more partners and saving more lives, which is great. We did put together a little presentation. What you're looking at right now is our very first outdoor AED cabinet, 24/7 accessible. That one was donated with in partnership with the Petaluma Rotaries, all of them. And we do partner with the City Park and Rec for the installation. And then we do the maintenance. This one's at Lakehorn Park. And knock on wood, it hasn't had to be used yet, but it's there just in case. So that's something we didn't have when we first started Heart Safe Community in 2013. We've come a long way. So go ahead, next slide. So what is a heart-safe community? Training a significant percentage of the population in hands-only CPR that helps with the widespread training. Placing defibrillators out in the public because you don't need to be a medical professional to use one. They're designed for anybody. We've even had a 17-year-old use one in the town of Sonoma that saved a life a couple years ago. We also promote registration of these AEDs. And another new development since our initial proclamation is the advancement of something called Pulse Point. And that is a phone app that integrates with our 911 dispatch, and it will locate the nearest defibrillator that is near where the cardiac arrest is happening out in the community. We'll talk a teeny bit more about that coming up. And then, of course, our 911 dispatchers are all trained in Sonoma County to give instructions over the phone when someone calls on what to do to provide CPR, which is amazing. And we are the only or one of the only cities in Sonoma County where our police cars are equipped with AEDs, and that's amazing. So that's something we should all really be proud of, and that is greatly due to a local organization called Petaluma Save a Life. It's the Cruising the Boulevard car show. Some of you might have been there. They raise funds and they donate the defibrillators to the police department, and then we maintain them for them and track all the expirations and things like that. And then, we would love to prevent heart attacks and cardiac arrest from happening, and that starts with heart health education. So we do implement that in all of our events that we do in our CPR classes. So that's kind of what a heart safe community is. Then I'll let you go to the next slide. Okay, so now you know what it is. Why do we need it? Why is it so important? One of the statistics you were already given, sudden cardiac arrest is the #1 killer in the United States, the second in Sonoma County. This is a statistic a lot of people don't know. About 23,000 youth suffer a cardiac arrest annually, and 40% of those happen during sports. And so we did in the last 5 years maybe, we have done 2 youth and young adult cardiac screenings, and we actually did find some youth that were walking around with undiagnosed anomalies that could lead to sudden cardiac arrest. Sports physicals listen to the heart, but these anomalies have to be seen through EKG, and those typically are not part of a sports physical. So that was a really exciting thing that we've been able to bring to the Petaluma and the county at large. And it is Heart Month, which is why we choose February to come and do these proclamations every other year. But it's also Go Red for Women, women's heart health. And so I have one more statistic for you. Women are less likely to receive CPR from bystanders out in the community, greatly due to fear of legal ramifications and accusations of inappropriate touching. 39% of women and 45% of men receive bystander CPR, and that does result in about a 20% less survival rate for women. So we recently implemented female anatomy mannequins into all of our classes. And when I was a little, I've been teaching CPR for over 20 years. And this was new for all of us. And I, put them out there and just kind of waited to see what happened. And I am so amazed with the response, the positive response of people so excited to finally see a female anatomy mannequin, because women need CPR too, All right, next one, please. All right, so some straightforward solutions to the problems. This is a great photo. We did a daycare center in town, and they were very nice to let us, give us permission to use this photo. But we train adults for adult victims, children and infants. But what can we do to not make cardiac arrest the #1 killer in the United States? We want to flood public spaces with AEDs and also citizens that are equipped to start hands-only CPR and use those devices. We want to train as many people as possible, because when someone does suffer a sudden cardiac arrest, from the time you make the phone call to the time those responders show up, those crucial few minutes, that could be the difference between life and death. So getting responders where these things happen, having the tools like the defibrillators there, we should really start seeing increase in survival rates, which is what this is all about. Every minute counts, and we do have Pulse Point in Sonoma County, the phone app that anybody can download. It will help direct you to if a cardiac arrest happens nearby and you are a responder, it will alert you possible CPR needed. You can choose to go or not. And every AED that is in Pulse Point, 911 knows its location. So does anyone know if we have an AED in this building? We do. Okay. So a lot of us don't know that. So if something, gosh forbid, happened here, we called 911, they would say, hey, go grab the defibrillator in the hallway in the front of the building. And that's huge, because they call it drop to shock. The quicker we shock after someone drops, the better the survival rate. And I think we're ready for the last slide. I'll let you put that up there. So Heart Safe Community designation is something that we would love to expand to more cities in the county. But we'll just go over the great spot that Petaluma is in. So currently the city of Petaluma, under the city spaces, 14 of those are enrolled in the Heart Safe Community membership. 36 additional sites are in Petaluma. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but 36 sites, but that means all of the schools in Petaluma City Schools. So that's, I think, 14 different sites are just under there. PEP housing, different places throughout. So it doesn't mean 36 AEDs, it means 16 sites. The AEDs are registered and tracked. And so Pulse Point, the county AED tracker or locator, I should say, has about a little over 1,000 defibrillators in there. But we don't know if those AEDs that are in Pulse Point are going to actually be maintained and working when we grab them. Anybody can put them in the registry. There's an AED here, great. But Healthy Petaluma, we have over 500 AEDs in our registry, many of which are in Pulse Point, but some are not. We know that those 500 are maintained. We track and replace the batteries and the pads before they expire, a couple months before they expire. And I have come across defibrillators that I just went this weekend somewhere. Someone called and said, hey, come check the AED at our facility. And I went in there, was not functioning. Battery expired about 6 months ago. So, we really do, our goal is to make sure that if you have an AED and you go to use it, it's going to work. So that's a really big one. The police department is equipped with AEDs or vehicles, like I mentioned. And I do want to do a shout out to the Rotaries for doing so many donations for especially recently the outdoor AEDs. And I do want to shout out to our fire department too. The fire chief couldn't be here this evening. He really wanted to, but we've had a long-standing partnership and support with them. And this week, they are doing all the 7th grade hands-only CPR in Petaluma. There has been 2 Petaluma students that use their 7th grade CPR training to save lives. And so we want to keep that going. In Petaluma, it's about 25 to 3,000 students every year. And then we also do have training at the high school level as well. Do you want to have any words that you want to say?
I just want to thank the city for their support and thank the departments within the city for their support. I mean, really, the fire, the police, EMS, very supportive. We couldn't do this program without their support. And I just want to thank Tammy. She's the heart of the heart program, as you can tell. She's been doing it for years. And if you're a relative of Tammy's or a friend of Tammy's and you don't know hands-only CPR, you're not invited to dinner. That's the way she is. So thank you so much.
All right, the very last.
And thank you very much.
One last thing. The takeaway slide is call to action. Download those Pulse Point apps and learn how to do CPR and where the AEDs are. Now I'm done.
Thank you very much. All right, and that brings us to our presentation for the evening. And our presentation tonight is about the Caulfield Bridge and the extension, that update. And we have Bjorn Griepenberg, project manager, up to the podium, who will introduce friends and the rest of the team. But I'd like to note that immediately following their presentation and council discussion questions, we go into general public comment, which is where the public can ask questions on this topic if they have questions on this topic as well. And so with that, Mr. Griepenberg, please take it away.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, we're excited to bring an update to you on this exciting project, the Caulfield Lane Bridge and Extension Crosstown Connector Project. It has been quite some time since our team has engaged with council and the community on this project. So tonight, we are looking forward to giving you an update on everything our project team has been working on and also tee up some engagement activities that we will be coming back to the community with throughout this year. So with that, I'll pass it off to Jason Hickey, who's the structures lead for Mark Thomas and our deputy project manager on this. Thanks.
Thank you. We can dig into the next slide. To give the council and the public a little bit of background about the project is going to construct a new drawbridge across the Petaluma River to provide another crosstown connector that would connect between the south and the north along the existing Caulfield Lane. The project would create a safe and convenient crossing for people walking, bicycling, rolling, however they choose to get across, along with vehicular traffic. The project would also relieve congestion along existing crosstown corridors, including the Washington and D Street crossings. Additionally, it would have the benefit of providing improved emergency response times and access in an alternative way across the river. Next slide. The project is in an area that is developing, especially on the north bank. In yellow there, you can see the Petaluma River Park, which is a significant development along the Petaluma River and the McNear Channel. Additionally, there's development on the southeast corner of the project, right near where the proposed bridge is going to be. That's the newly constructed River Place Apartments. And then north, next to the Marriott, there's several planned developments that are in various progress of being completed. Next slide. Here's an image from the Petaluma River Park of what that project could be and what it's envisioned to be at this time. We're working as a project team to coordinate actions and make sure that the Caulfield extension and our project are well coordinated. Next slide. A recap of some of the recent project milestones. We've completed preliminary design. We've completed all of the topographic surveys. We coordinated with the River Place Apartments on their street frontage to make sure that that frontage is compatible with the bridge project. We've completed the hydraulic analysis to make sure that we're not going to exacerbate any flooding or have hydraulic impacts. We've completed the bridge type selection report, which looked at several different alternatives, and I'll show some renderings on what the proposed alternative is later in my presentation. We've also completed the first round of public engagement with kind of more broad public outreach, as well as a neighborhood-focused meeting. And then the geotechnical investigation is largely complete. We still have one boring to do within the river that'll occur this summer. Next slide. Kind of some of the next steps and things that are in progress. We're working through the environmental technical studies, and one of the key components of this bridge project that isn't seen on a lot of other bridge projects is coordination with the Coast Guard. This is a navigable waterway, so coordination with the Coast Guard is important and critical, as the project needs a permit from the Coast Guard to be able to go to construction. Right now, the Coast Guard has all of the exhibits for them to prepare the notice to mariners, which will go out likely later this month. That'll give waterway users an opportunity to comment on the navigational clearances that are proposed for this project and provide any feedback that they may have. The design is in progress and advancing beyond the concept level. Also, on the north end of the project, where we have the Caulfield extension, we're crossing the railroad tracks adjacent to Hopper, and that requires CPUC coordination for that railroad crossing. So we're working on getting a field meeting with them to work out their needs as part of the Caulfield extension and the revisions to that intersection that we're proposing. And I'll show that in a minute. Then also upcoming later this spring, we plan to have another round of public engagement where community members can come out and provide their input and what they see on the project, and make sure that we, as the design team and the city, can hear their concerns and benefits to the project and how we can make that the best project for the community. Here's the bridge layout. The north side is on the left of the screen. The south side is on the right. The bridge, because it needs to move, will have a counterweight to be able to balance the span that needs to lift to allow navigation. That counterweight has been placed on the Caulfield Lane side. That's to help prevent any backup into the Petaluma Boulevard roundabout that may occur when the bridge operates. That is a critical component to maximize queuing and make sure that we have a minimum of traffic impacts to Petaluma Boulevard. If we take a look at the next slide, one of the early alternatives we evaluated was an overhead counterweight option. This has a couple of benefits structurally. One of the cons is obviously the visual impacts are significant. This overhead counterweight is about 45 feet in height, and we are standing on the corner of Caulfield and Batista where there is a house. And so you can see this definitely impacts the visual nature of that. So we worked with the city to help refine some of these, and we were able to move the counterweight to below the roadway level into a pit pier. And so the next slide shows what that looks like. I think it's pretty clear which one is better. So this is the alternative we are proposing to move forward with. I want to show you a couple other vantage points of what this looks like from other parts of the city. So let's go to the next slide. So here's like an orthographic view where we have Bautista on the north bank on the upper left, and then we have the existing Caltrans maintenance yard on the south on the bottom right. And this image was taken before the apartments were built, so you can't see that there. But you can see we have one pier within the water that has been optimized to make sure we don't cause any flooding. And that is the rest pier. So if we take a look at the next slide, kind of what that looks like. This is looking north from up above Petaluma Boulevard, looking through the roundabout. That's the extension. Here's an exhibit from our conceptual design for the Caulfield extension. So it's a little bit hard to see in this exhibit, but Caulfield Lane is going to extend south across the railroad tracks through the existing city courtyard where you have the treatment plant now. That's going to come down to a roundabout. And right now we're showing a westbound leg off to the left that would connect to the Petaluma River Park development. We have capacity to add a southbound leg to additional development that may occur as part of that project. So we're in conversations with them on what it is that they need, but they're still relatively early on their grid layout and everything. For the northbound leg of the Caulfield extension, we would have separated pathways with tree planting in between and a raised median. We would eliminate that raised median kind of on the east-west legs just because of right-of-way constraints and to maximize the development for nearby property owners. Next slide. Here's an elevation of what the bridge looks like. You can see we've got that big box on the left-hand side. That's where the counterweight is housed. That is basically on the existing bank, so it doesn't have any impacts to the river or the river flows and won't impact flooding at all. There's a opening for the existing pathway to go underneath the roadway. So the pathway does not have a conflict with roadway traffic that's going to be using Caulfield Lane or the Caulfield extension. Then we have, over the main span, we have a 90-foot wide, plus a little bit of horizontal clearance for waterway users to cross. Additionally, there's 70 feet above basically the flood elevation for like masted boats and recreational vehicles to make sure that we adhere to the Coast Guard's requests for navigational clearance. And on the next slide. This is the bridge cross section. The bridge has 2 lanes of vehicular traffic and then a multi-use path on each side that'll provide views and recreational opportunities as well as safe transportation for all mode users. Next slide. So upcoming public engagement. The notice to mariners will be sent out likely later this month by the Coast Guard. A copy of or a link to that will be posted on the city's project webpage, and the public can comment on that if they'd like. Additionally, in the spring, we're going to have that second community meeting. And then the draft environmental document will be circulated later this fall, which will be available for public comment. Next slide. Here's a schedule of the project kind of moving forward. That draft environmental document is going to be in the fall, followed by the final environmental document and addressing any comments that we receive in spring of 27. Design will basically wrap up that summer with a shovel-ready project looking for sometime in 2028. The project is funded through design, but does not have all of its construction funding yet. It's partially funded for construction. Talking about costs, the costs for the bridge and the extension project are kind of broken down here. The big ticket item is the structure and the mechanical equipment associated with the movable span. That is estimated at $90 million, which includes 20% contingency and escalation for future construction. The approach spans, those are approximately $3 million. The extension, including the roadway improvements, is $4 million for a total project cost of about $97 million. With that, I will open it up to questions, and for anyone in the audience or watching online, there's a link to the city's project webpage there.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. We're all anxious for this project and keep seeing it in the budget every year. And so, Council, any particular questions? Councilmember Shribs.
Yes, on the bridge as it expands across, you have a part that does go up and down. Let's assume it's the smaller boats are going through. So at high tide, what is the height limitation on the bridge? So we know what small boats can go through without lifting.
Yeah, so at a normal high tide, we're looking at about 8 feet of clearance between the water and the bottom of the bridge. So depending on the type of vessel and the tides, they may be able to cross without needing any operation. The clearance is quite a bit better than the Smart Bridge immediately downstream, which is very low to the water compared to the proposed bridge.
Okay, I just wanted to see how much traffic might have to go up and down compared, what about compared to the D Street Bridge? More often or less often, raising and lowering?
I think it's similar to the clearance at D Street.
Similar clearances. No,
Yeah.
so what type of boats are going to be raised for each case?
Yes.
So about the same number of raising as the D Street Bridge when boats are coming in and out.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. Second one, you have a 4-foot shoulder on either side, and then I wasn't sure if you had a middle space between the two lanes. So why do we have 4 feet on the outside and less on the inside? I would think 2 or 3 feet on the inside and 2 or 3 feet on the outside for lanes, because do they really need all that?
Can I ask if we pop that slide back up?
Yeah. I think it's like slide 10. So the cross section, and Bjorn, you can jump in if you'd like to. Where you place your car within that basically 15 feet is kind of up to the driver. There will be a center stripe, but and are we striping? We can put a white fog line stripe on the outside, but 11 feet is common for the lane width.
Right. I was thinking of a wider middle lane rather than wider 4-foot shoulders would be more important for cars passing each other and trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, kind of our default on these busier arterial roadways that are serving transit and see a lot of emergency response. We're generally going with 10.5 or 11-foot lanes. We don't really want to go too much wider than that, or you start to encourage speeding. And this is not anticipated to be a freight route, so no need for really to go any wider for freight. The idea here with this cross section you see is providing enough width so that in the event of an emergency and if fire or police need to get through, people can pull over, use that 4-foot shoulder, and there's enough room remaining for an emergency vehicle to split the middle and get through.
Okay, what I was suggesting is asking about is why not have 2 feet in the exact center of the whole thing so that instead of cars together like this, they're apart when they're passing each other instead of passing like this. I'm talking about the exact center lane. Are we talking about a 6-inch line, a foot line, a 2-foot line?
Yeah, it'd
right
be
down the center?
a standard double yellow detail.
Okay, so
Which
standard
those are
boulevard.
around a foot wide, a 1.5 feet wide with the reflective markers.
Okay, just checking on what that centerpiece, because that's where we have Lakeville has problems with people going fast, and then they're hitting each other in that center area.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's just a concern I have, just to make sure that we're covered on that part. Then on the design, so I'd like to find out, there was some money that we had appropriated at the very beginning for this whole project. So how much money is going into, when we finally get to 100% design, how much money has gone into the design part to 100%, and how much money is going to be left over for actual construction?
I know those numbers are in the FY 26 or 25-26 budget book. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. I believe our design budget for this project was in the ballpark of $7 or $8 million. And right now we are showing, again, working off the top of my head here, but I believe we were showing somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 million assigned to the project. Mostly traffic impact fees, but also I believe there was some developer contribution showing for the project.
Okay, so that means we have about $28,000 left over after the design, but with about, for the construction, about $90 million. So we still have to raise $60 to $70 million then somewhere. Correct?
Yeah, and obviously our construction cost estimates will become more fine-tuned as we get closer to 100% design. And also we may at some point come back to council with some decisions to make on potential value engineering measures that can be taken with the project to hopefully get that number down a little bit.
Good. Now I know at one point in the past, I've suggested not having a movable bridge, but just having a permanent one, maybe just a little bit higher, but just permanent without the movable part, which would restrict the size of boats coming in and out at that time. So just for comparison to note, the movable part, how much does that actually add to the cost of the bridge? And so that we understand the cost of allowing boats in and out. Looking at dredging costs, what we have there added to that to keep the basin clear, because I'm not sure if we're ever going to get up for there. So if we're adding all those up and trying to compare that to the economy of the boat traffic. So the concern I had is, are we overspending to maintain our boat traffic, or would it be much more effective to park all the boats at the marina and then keep the bridge down low? So what does that moving part actually cost for, just so that we know what we're paying for in order to have our boat economy here?
I'm sure Jason can speak to the numbers, but I'll just say that, yeah, really, I think an important part of that decision would need to be the impacts it would have on dredging, which obviously have broader impacts on flood control and the hydraulics of the river. So that would be a major trade-off to make, is basically foregoing the ability, I think, to dredge the river upstream of this location, along taken into consideration alongside the recreational impacts. And I'll see if Jason will speak to the other piece.
Yeah, the other piece of that is the Coast Guard is in charge of navigable waterways, and aside from doing a fixed bridge that is similar to the height of Highway 101, which is just downstream, they will not issue a permit for the project that you're describing.
Right, I'm saying to keep our river navigable, what is the actual cost? The raised bridge keeps it navigable, closed bridge not navigable. What is the actual cost to keep it navigable by having that raised part compared to, let's look at the economy of not navigable. What is the real economic cost to that? What are the two costs is what I've been asking all along.
Yeah.
And we got a real good answer on that.
Can I ask, did this get covered in early workshop on project plan decisions?
I don't know that we ever provided a cost estimate for a fixed bridge.
You're thinking that the fixed bridge was never a conceivable, permittable project, so you stop before getting into engineering the cost for that?
We really haven't looked at a fixed bridge due to the river's designation as a navigable waterway.
Is that something that you can give us a back of the envelope number on if we gave you a few days or weeks?
The challenge is the height would be the same as the 101 bridge, and you would not be able to, within the reasonable limits, be able to touch back down.
I'm not saying it would not be navigable. No, it would be closed road. It would no longer be a navigable river at all. So you don't need any height because there's no boats coming up and down.
Let's let a new expert has come to the stand. Let's have a new expert speak.
So good evening. My name is Zach Sevilla. I'm the project manager. I've seen a number of you before, so it's good to see you all again. Understand the question, and I think given a couple days, we could come back and provide Bjorn an estimate of what that would look like, with the understanding that it would require the Coast Guard to buy off on that. We don't have that number right now just because we have not costed out a project like that, given that the project was to build a movable bridge. That being said, it would be significantly less expensive to build a fixed bridge than it would be to build a movable span.
I think it was just important that if it's a $30 million cost to put in the movable bridge, is it worth not doing that? And putting that effort in to actually not putting in the movable bridge and having the plan to do there's many small dredging machines that could go under 10 foot. So I'm talking about a whole different system here. I'd just like to have the evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions on the presentation tonight? Please.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. This is an area that not a lot of people know about. It's very close to my neighborhood. We use Batista Way as a location for my family and friends to meet and watch the lighted boat parade and watch all those tall sailboats go down the river. So I'm really excited. But one thing a community member brought to my attention, and I know we're going to do the landscaping design somewhere, can we fit in a river walk along there with some trees and some landscaping, because right now it's just weeds on the Batista side. And then can we encourage Caltrans to kind of step up their landscaping, because there's none right now. And let me see what else I have on my notes. The community member also, we have I don't know if it's a new word, bioswales. And that's an area that could really benefit, and it could maybe then run off into the Petaluma River and the landscaping. So is that something we can do in that area leading up to the bridge on both sides?
Yeah, so actually, the good news is all of the stormwater, or at least the vast majority of the stormwater in the riverfront neighborhood, already goes through some sort of filtration before it enters the river. Lots of bioswales in that neighborhood, so that's more or less taken care of on the north bank. And then there are some bioswales that were installed along the River Place Apartments frontage on the other side of the river. So most of that stormwater in the vicinity of the bridge is already going through some degree of filtration before it enters the river. And of course, as we're working through the stormwater plans for this project, that's something that will.
That's great to know.
Easy to
Thank you. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to also answer the first question about the Riverwalk and landscaping opportunities. So during our community meeting last year, we did share some concept renderings of what that area would look like. And it does include landscaping along that stretch. So that is something that we're actively already including with the project.
That's very appreciated, because I know that the neighborhood uses it. It's a great little park. It's a great little area, but it's in the wintertime, it's muddy and weedy. And it would be nice to have a landscape path, at least to stand and watch the Light a Boat Parade. Don't tell anybody. Thank you.
Did you want to touch on the pathways that are planned along the river? Because the city's been proactive in planning.
So it is exciting to hopefully watch our river trail continue to grow. Obviously, there was a section included with the riverfront development as part of their improvements. And the vision is for that to extend on both sides of that pathway. The city has a CIP project to take it over to the marina in Schollenberger under US 101. And then there's also, obviously, with the River Park Phase 2 plans, Phase 1 and Phase 2 plans, pathway extension that would connect that area over across McNear Channel via a pedestrian bridge and into the Petaluma River Park. So a lot of great connectivity that's expanding in that area along our river.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of good happening along that side of the river. We're opening up the river. Any other thoughts and comments? Councilman Vice Mayor DeCarli?
Thank you all for the presentation tonight. I'm personally excited to see this because I think it'd be awesome to connect the south end of town, and for all the reasons you mentioned, alleviating traffic, emergency reasons, and then to connect businesses and people on both sides. So I think it'll be a much needed thing. You mentioned that the Coast Guard was going to be sending out a notice to mariners. I'm wondering at this point, what has the city done getting this far in the design to reach out to river industry and business that does use the waterway?
So at this point, obviously Petaluma has a great legacy of river-dependent industrial activity. However, at this point, there really isn't, to my knowledge, any remaining industrial activity on that reach of the waterway past this bridge. So that's something that has not actively been taken into account with our engagement. However, of course, with the navigable clearances that are required with Coast Guard, those are really designed and put in place to protect that future possibility. Should any sort of industry return to the river, the clearances, both horizontal and vertical, would allow for the movement of larger vessels.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I did speak with some river industry that has used our river for a very, very long time. And, they do have some concerns about it. And so that's why I would hope that, going forward, we can talk to those people and any others that might use it. They'll be able to tell you better than I can, but some of their concerns are around just having bumpers on the abutment versus fenders, and why we're choosing to do that.
Well, I'll ask my other question. Do you have an answer to that one right now?
Yeah, so if you go to the elevation view, what we've done is eliminate the fender system, which is basically like, imagine a guardrail around the bridge pier. Because of the design vehicles and the barges that we're accounting for in the bridge design, we're able to design the pier to withstand a barge bouncing off of that because of the nature of that pier design itself. So we've put, rather than a separate fender system, which would encroach on the waterway and reduce those navigational clearances and actually provide like less room for marine users to be able to get through the channel. We've decided to design the pier to be able to withstand any forces that might accommodate that, and just put rub rails along the face of the pier. That way it doesn't hopefully damage the boat or the bridge itself. So, yeah.
And then just one other technical point to why the fender system, the independent fender system, was not included is this is a very active flood control channel. And in terms of modeling, there was a lot of work that we had to do in terms of how we orient the pier, what shape the pier is. And if we put additional obstructions in the river, it did have an impact on water surface elevations for the 100-year storm that we do have to design for. So this was a good balance of, again, protecting the pier, making sure that it is, something that is not going to cause damage, but then also making sure that we can accommodate any of the future storms that need to come through this area.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so that one person did ask, in that case, would you then be willing to sign off and say that pier could withstand a 4,000-ton barge traveling at 8 knots hitting it?
Yeah, the design vessel is something on that order of magnitude. I'd have to take a look at the calculations that we did to make sure that we could withstand that. But I could get back to you with that exact design load.
Okay, no, that would be great, because that's historically some of what we've had going up and down the river.
Yeah, correct.
Another question I have too is, why can we not center the bridge over the river?
So we could center the bridge over the river, but what we've focused on doing is centering the navigational opening over the deepest part of the river, kind of based on historical bathymetrics, which is just underwater survey. So we make sure that the navigational opening that we're providing by the bridge doesn't encumber the deepest part of the channel. So making sure that those two line up. Yeah.
Also, there has been coordination with the U.S. Coast Guard already to get to this point, and part of their outreach to mariners, they determine where the navigation opening needs to be. And so the opening dimensions that Jason talked about during the presentation have come from the initial coordination we've had with the U.S. Coast Guard. As I go back out with their next notice here, there will be outreach to the mariners, and that's where they look at, is there any adjustments that are needed? So we do have the flexibility to move that navigation channel where they determine is best. Mm-hmm. Right now, this is based on the outreach that they've received from mariners.
But they haven't received any outreach for this project.
There has been a notice to mariners that went out. It was several years ago at this point, but there was initial feedback from mariners to the U.S. Coast Guard.
Okay, because some of and again, I encourage everyone to reach out to them all, but some of the standards to keep 25 feet off the bank, so that puts you very close to the pier, and not having a fender there, and it makes it it's already very, it's a very, challenging business to be in. There's a lot of safety risks, and so forcing them kind of to get closer to that pier is a concern of theirs. So I would encourage you to reach out to them, because we're in the middle right now trying to promote so much business and economy in Petaluma. We don't want to potentially lose any more because we overlooked anything. My last comments will be about, was it ever considered to do more of a truss style bridge, or have iron up above it, you know, to look more like our other bridges, or to give it more of an old flavor like Petaluma has?
It was. So part of the type selection report, we looked at a number of different alternatives. So the truss type structures, one of them was shown in that early rendering that Jason mentioned. So you end up with needing that overhead counterweight, which because of just the visual obstruction that we were trying to avoid, the reason we decided to go with that pit pier is it reduces the profile of the bridge quite a bit. The span for this bridge is quite a bit longer than some of the other bridges, and that's the reason why the truss and the overhead counterweight it would end up being a lot larger than what you currently see in some of the other structures.
Okay. And how do you know how much more approximately a truss style bridge would cost? Or if it does cost more?
It in terms of unit weight of steel, it's not necessarily more or less. It's just the visual obstruction that you would see. And again, what drives the cost mainly is the span that we are trying to design for.
Okay. Is it possible that in the future, when you guys come back to us, we could see some alternative designs that are similar to like our D Street Bridge or the Railroad Bridge just south of 101?
Absolutely. So Bjorn, I know we have a type selection report that's already been drafted, so we can coordinate with Bjorn and getting that information shared with the council.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I appreciate you guys making the presentation. I know projects that take a long time, sometimes we come back and visit the same point maybe we thought of early on because we haven't refreshed. So maybe in the next update, a little where we've been and throw a couple of those early slides that 2 or 3 years ago decisions were made that got us to today's design. But I do like that we're able to grill you on design decisions and you can keep saying, yeah, we thought about that. Yeah, that's part of what Coast Guard requires. I mean, and I'm sure you're open to, if we do know of anybody who has expertise or concern in town, that staff would be welcome to have their contact so they can get firsthand confidence in the project before waiting to some other future meeting. So I'm sure y'all could be in touch. Thank you very much. I hope you'll stay for the public comment in case anyone has a specific address of this issue. All right, and that moves us on to our general public comment for the night. And general public comment, the public is invited to make comments on items of public interest that are within the City Council's subject matter jurisdiction and not listed on the current agenda. And the comments are listed. The comments are limited to up to 3 minutes per person, but depending on the number of persons wishing to address the council, time will be allocated in equal shares, totaling no more than 20 minutes. And if we have more than 20 people wishing to speak, additional comments could be heard after the last business item. This is also the opportunity to say something about the bridge if you are so inclined. And so I'd like to turn it over to the clerk and ask if we've gotten cards or letters or emails, and then our message for tonight.
Yes, so we did receive 24 general public comments before the meeting. Those are posted online. And at this time, I will start a 30-second clock. So during these 30 seconds, members of the public should bring their speaker cards to my desk if they have not already done so. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
We have 13 folks that wish to speak tonight, and at 13, that will set the clock at 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds here. And I just have to remind, 90 seconds will go by pretty fast. So, really try and get your key point out there early so that you don't find yourself running out of time. But also, if you have comments that extend longer than that period, we do suggest that you submit them in writing, and then they make it into the complete record. And I think I can speak for every council person here. They read all of the comments that come in. So you note that it is valuable to submit in writing. Our first speaker is Amy Taylor, to be followed by Gary Deaver.
Hi, good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about the 114 dogs that were left in their own urine, feces, no medical care, left to die. I have a thing. This is North Bay Animal Services intake form from April 2025. This dog was found. This was an outside jurisdiction. We contacted Lake County Animal Services and notified them in case anyone was looking for him. He is safe now at the shelter. So now the picture on the right, does he look safe in the shelter? It's graphic. If you don't want to look, don't look. Does he look safe to anybody here on the right-hand side? Yeah. No, he doesn't look safe, does he? He looks almost dead. So I just want to know what the city council has any plans to have a meeting or a public discussion about North Bay Animal Services, about the executive director who has continued this behavior. And if you think that there wasn't dogs from Petaluma at Clear Lake Shelter, you're completely wrong. I want transport information. I want to know who intake. This is the only intake picture I could find, and that's off of their website. There's a problem, and here lies the problem. My friend has a mother dog with 6 puppies that was stuffed in a crate. The puppies were eating off of her. She's alive, thank God, but there's a problem here, and you guys need to solve it. And that's what I'm here to say, and I appreciate you listening to me tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you. I think I'll take a minute to interject for a second. Is that our next council meeting next Monday night? This is agendized. And so we'll be covering the full gamut of what's happened in Clear Lake and what it means to Petaluma and what Petaluma needs to do for actions. So I hope you'll be here for that discussion next week. Gary Deaver, to be followed by Wendy Jacobs.
Good evening, Mayor McConnell and members of City Council. First of all, I want to thank each of you for your public service to the citizens of Petaluma. My wife and I moved here 5 years ago. We've seen measured improvements every year in the services that the city offers to our community, and that's directly related to the leadership that you folks provide. Another reason I came tonight to thank you, number one, was to give a shout out to a public employee that I've had interactions with that deserves our accommodation, our gratitude. And I'm speaking of Scott Gibby, the Assistant Operation Manager for Public Works. Scott's been great to work with, very accommodating. He's just the kind of employee that you want to have on your rolls and is a good reflection on the leadership, again, that you provide. You know, sadly, most of what you hear from the public is negative in nature, and I'm kind of here tonight with representing maybe the silent majority that appreciates all that you do and the steps to move our city forward that you've provided the leadership that we have. So keep up the good work. You're appreciated in a lot of quarters of the community, and it's not always it is a thankless job sometimes. I hope you have a short meeting tonight.
Well, thank you very much on all counts. Wendy Jacob, to be followed by Stephanie Sanchez.
Thank you. Council members, I'm Wendy Jacobs, Chair of Relief Petaluma, and I speak for Relief Petaluma tonight. In my written public comment, which you will find at pages 77 and 78, I think I was maybe first in, last out, I have introduced you to the topic of the tree preservation or tree protection ordinance, which will be coming to you in about a month for first reading. Thank you, City Manager, and thank you, Mr. Danley, for your work on this important ordinance. Relief Petaluma supports this ordinance, and the purpose of my written comment tonight is to provide you with a couple of attachments to help you begin to process the decision that you'll be making in a month. I have given you the 2025 Canopy Assessment Report, which was completed by consultant Plan It Geo as part of our Urban Forest Management Plan, which will also be presented to you in March. And this is a fairly dense, long report. I will cut to the chase in the area of concern for us. Our tree canopy is not good in Petaluma. It has been assessed at 14%. And really suggests that it is poor quality as well as poor quantity of trees in the city due to poor siting and pruning practices over a long period of time. So I hope you'll have a chance to take a look at that attachment and also our slide deck. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Sanchez, to be followed by Christine White.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for what you do as well. And it's going to be hard for me to frame this really quickly, but I just wanted you to, I'm here to support the TPO, and it's going to be before you on the 16th of this month, next month, right, Wendy? And I'll just quickly, I moved to the Payran district 22 years ago. And first thing I noticed was that there were no trees anywhere. It's it's like a tree desert. And I've noticed stumps where large trees have been cut down. I've also found that the rentals in that area, none of the landlords allow trees in front of their houses. Even though tenants have told me that they would like a tree. So I joined Really finally, and I'm on the tree committee mainly because I wanted to see some changes there for the better in Petaluma. And I've worked with a lot of the neighbors in my area, and it's something that really has to happen. And so I support. It's a very complicated kind of ordinance, but it needs to happen for the future of our town. So, thank you.
Thank you. Christina White, to be followed by Darren Rakuzin.
Hello, Mayor McDonald, council members. My name is Christine White, and I'm here to speak about the redistricting and the council members' recusals. So when we were redistrict, we all vote for a single council member. And when our council member is recused, then our voices are silenced for their district. Please don't patronize me like last time when you said, don't worry, the rest of the council will speak for you, because that's not necessarily true. So I've done a little research, and ironically, I had no idea you were going to speak about anything about recusal, Councilmember DeCarly. But there is the Fair Political Practices Commission that says not all conflicts of interest prevent a public official from lawfully taking part in a government decision. There are two exceptions to that conflict. So like when Councilmember Cater Thompson had to recuse herself from Rainier, and other council members have had to recuse. It says the public generally exception states a public official is not disqualified from a decision if the effect on the official's interest is indistinguishable from the effect on the public. So I ask that you do take a look at it, because it applies to all of you. I don't think anybody's district should be silenced. I think when we were redistrict, we ask you to speak on behalf of us. So please take a look at it, and please stop recusing. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren Rakuzin, to be followed by Jody Johnson.
Thank you, staff and council. I'm actually here to give a quick update regarding two items I've spoken about before at past meetings. This is actually regarding enterprise fleet management and the City of Petaluma CalCard program. Happy to report that I did get documents back about both of those items from the city. You know, it was funny, I submitted kind of an informal, hey, can I get some details on enterprise? And before I knew it, I had a PRA request, a Public Records Act request. So maybe that's the most efficient way to do it, but if there's a quicker back and forth, I'd love that too, because it kind of led to more questions. I'd say on enterprise, some interesting facts. We have about 250 vehicles in service. It looks like 150 under the fleet of under the purview of enterprise fleet management, including like most of our police interceptors are leased, and it's some interesting things there that I have to go through. On the CalCard side, there was 1,900 pages of CalCard charges to review. So parsing my way through that in some way that's semi-efficient. So yeah, really appreciate getting the information. Look forward to seeing if there's a quicker way to go back and forth possibly. And then on the other issue that got raised on the dais about this lien, I was kind of shocked to hear we don't already have a lien in process. Having read the public record, whenever someone, an applicant is batting back and intimating they might not pay a bill, especially a $750,000 bill, I would think the first thing we do is file a lien because it doesn't hurt them. It just says, look, if you get your entitlement to HCPC and then want to sell the property, we're in this thing to get paid. So thank you.
Thank you. Jody Johnson, to be followed by Tim Porteous.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council staff. Our mobile park residents in Little Woods, Youngstown, and Capri bring to your attention once again that our large investment group park owners continue to abuse, retaliate, and openly challenge laws, zoning, and ordinances that are in full effect. In Youngstown, as senior citizen residents watched in court, park owners and their management openly defy the senior park overlay in full effect since October 2023. Park owners state they can't possibly run the park as a senior community, even though the park has run as a senior community since 1989. Residents were age verified, signs stated senior park, and rules and regulations were senior park rules and regulations. Now they try to persuade a court of law that they just found out in 2023, ironically, just right after the city passed 17 revisions to the rent stabilization ordinance, that they had been discriminating against young families. The Senior Park Overlay includes HOPA, the Housing for Older Persons Act, which shows in every city and county that senior communities can be defined to protect senior communities. This is certainly not discrimination. These false narratives being used to retaliate against senior citizens are as egregious as the rest of the weaponization about every law, ordinance, and zoning that these bad actor owners defy. More importantly, while anyone litigates an issue they believe to be unjust, you just can't simply break the law. Fraudulently telling park owners.
Thank you. Tim Porteous, to be followed by Jennifer Boyle.
Fraudulently tell potential buyers the park is anything but a senior park, or remove signs, hand out false rules and regulations, and even more. There is no order from a court allowing these violations of an existing senior park overlay. Our bad actor park owners have and continue to do just that without any legal ruling telling them they can operate against a city ordinance or a city zoning. Imagine if our residents went against any MRL law, any rule or regulation that they don't like, we would be evicted. This speaks to the imbalance of justice for residents without wealth. Capri and Little Ones are now attacked by this preposterous demand of Harmony of home insurance and the demand to include Harmony as added insurer on the resident's own mobile home. While any resident weighs home insurance if they can afford it, this is the resident-owned mobile home. What goes between a mortgage company and a resident is between them. Oh boy. Jeez. We don't see residents demanding that park owners add residents to their land insurance. The threat of a 7-day notice for not getting home insurance from a landowner is another retaliation that unfortunately is being presented by the same bad actor investment group throughout the state.
Thank you. Jennifer Boyle, to be followed by Wayne Clark.
Thank you. Good evening. This is privilege and power over people. Our community should be appalled at how a mobile park resident buying and living within their means in unsubsidized mobile homes are being treated by greed and gouging by these large new breed investment park owners. Mobile home park residents are not asking for any handouts. They are standing up to courts of laws in arbitrations against this kind of power. Residents are not only standing up, but the facts prevail before a multitude of judges and arbitrators. Park owners taking away parking, weaponizing closure processes, and breaking unlawful ordinances and lawful zoning is a world these residents wake up to for the last 3 years. There is an imbalance of money between an investment group park owner and a mobile park resident, but residents are equal when facts prevail. The city of Petaluma is courageous, but notably, they are not capitulating to wealth over facts and decency. Our city values all its residents, and we are proud of their efforts to stand up for the most vulnerable. Petaluma Mobile Residents United.
Thank you very much. Wayne Clark, to be followed by Chantel Rogers. And I do have to note, Wayne, we're going to try and have some connection to council jurisdiction, some subject matter of City of Petaluma in your comments.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
ICE enforcement policies. I sat in recently on a special study session by Santa Rosa City Council regarding community safety concerns related to ICE federal enforcement. Petaluma City Council has addressed many of these issues. As of early 2025, Petaluma has reaffirmed its commitment to supporting immigrant communities by adhering to state laws, specifically focusing on non-cooperation with federal immigration. Adopt ICE-free zones on city property. Require valid judicial warrants, not administrative warrants. Limit city data sharing like license plate readers for federal immigration enforcement. Reaffirm SB 54, the California Values Act, which restricts local police from asking about immigration status. Detaining individuals on federal hold, assisting with civil immigration investigation. Support the Rapid Response Network. Know your rights workshops and distribute these red cards. Like Santa Rosa, let's urge Congress for better agent training and understanding local and state sanctuary policies, which is always a hot topic. Track and report any interactions with ICE agents. Establish safe havens like schools, churches, and hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chantel Rogers, to be followed by Tom Gaffey.
Good evening. So I went to the Measure U Oversight Committee meeting this week. I was surprised to find out that the budgeted Measure U fiscal year 25-26 expenditures calls for 94% of Measure U tax revenue to be spent on essential city services and operations, to the tune of about $14.7 million. Just 6%, a little over $1 million, is set aside for not only road repair, but also other infrastructure investment, as well as Lucchese turf replacement, the sidewalk program, transit support, and technology. Members of the committee asked a lot of questions about where the money was for road repair, a major voter expectation. It was explained that between city operations and CalPERS pension debt catch-up expenses, which have been known to the city since 2017 and which will be increasing for several more years before coming back down, there's little money left and won't be any extra until 2031. The committee last year put in the recommendation to the city that 25% of Measure U tax income be set aside for road repair, but as one committee member said, that fell on deaf ears. With the $20 million of bond money for road improvements spent or committed and no additional Measure U funds forthcoming until at least 2031, it doesn't seem that there will be much funding available for fixing our streets. If you haven't already, I hope you'll take the time to watch the meeting. It may help inform your perspective when considering the upcoming budget discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Gaffey, to be followed by Nicholas Harris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to come up and give a brief word of support to Alex DeCarli and Karen Now in their desire to bring before you discussing a lien against the EKN property to the tune of $765,000. This would not kill the project in any way. This would just assure us that we would at least have some remedy to get some of that money back. Should they default or have any problems, we'll at least be able to look at that property and go after that money. It's a lot of money for us, so please give that some consideration. Alex, don't back down. Karen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nicholas Harris.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and council members. Quickly want to follow Mr. Deaver's lead and give a shout out to the water utilities team. They were in my neighborhood twice, first the day after Christmas and about 10 days later, fixing water main leaks. They did an amazing job. They came back over the period of time and replaced the water services, and their conduct and work was just outstanding. I want to pivot to capital projects and scope creep. I know Mayor and many of you share my concern with capital project throughput, and I'd like, if possible, if Mr. Shribbs's ask to look at the cost of a Caulfield Bridge that would remove navigable waterway designation to the river. I'll just have a quick straw poll and get a pulse check from the council to see if that's really something that you want to task the team to spend time and resources looking at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that was our last speaker. That closes general public comment. I want to thank our Caulfield Bridge presentation team for staying with us for that. And then I'd like to bring it on up to council. And tonight I'll be starting from the right-hand side of the dais, and Councilmember Barnacle.
I have nothing.
Okie dokie. And Councilmember Cater Thompson.
Okay, I'll start out with that. I liked Gary's comment tonight. I think the majority of people in Petaluma are really happy what's going on in Petaluma, but we hear the gaslighting all the time. So thank you for coming, and he's gone, but I really appreciated that. I'm just going to talk briefly on the money for EKN. I was quite aware of what's been going on. I'm not living, underground. And I know that money will be coming to the city of Petaluma. And this is being brought forward because many people don't want any development in this area, which is extremely blighted and not bringing in any dollars into this city. So this is another form of gaslighting just so people get angry with the city council. But I think Gary was right. The majority are really bypassing this and realizing what it is. I attended the Petaluma Police the police award ceremony with my husband Jerry, and it was really a beautiful ceremony. And recently, going back to saving people's lives, Jace Hansen, a police officer, saved the life of a local resident. He was the first on the scene. He performed CPR and continued doing CPR even when the paramedics were on the scene. That is a team. And this person lived. And a lot of times, people just don't live. A friend of mine, 3 days before Christmas, had a heart attack. Her husband couldn't find the cell phone. He had to do CPR, and she did pass away. And it's really sad. And so this goes into landlines, and what I'm also hearing from our senior residents, the concern of landlines for safety. The Kavanaugh Pool, I've seen some photos of the pool. People are really happy. And I know that I sent an email to our city manager and to Drew about a few things that are being requested, and there's a few more things that I'll be sending you, but I really appreciate working with people to make sure they're getting their needs met and understanding how the process works. SCTA, Sonoma County Transportation Climate Action meeting, got some good news on the Corona overcrossing. There's going to be a design phase going to have a separated bike and pedestrian from the roadway, which is really exciting because it's extremely dangerous. And with the SMART station there, this needs to be done. So that's moving forward. Hopefully in 2027, we'll be talking with Caltrans to start actually funding that project and getting it done sooner than later. SMART, I'm on the SMART Board of Directors. The ridership is up 25% from the last month from the year before, and the trail usage is up 13%. As far as we'll be talking about the NBAS at our next meeting, and I have had a lot of conversations with our city manager about this for a long time, so our heads are not in the sand. We know what's going on, and a lot more is coming out, and there will be changes. I attended the Democratic Convention as a voting delegate in San Francisco this last weekend, and I want to thank Mayor Lori for really cleaning up San Francisco and It was a great weekend, and he has turned out to be a great mayor, and there was a lot of negativity about him becoming the mayor. And people I talked to said, we didn't vote for him, and we are so happy with him. So that was great news. And then I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter, who's 41 today. And she is going to school. She's going to be applying for nursing school next year. So it's never too late to really make changes for people's lives. Thank you, and happy birthday, Liv.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. I have 3 updates for this evening. For the Airport Commission, the biggest thing we talked about that evening is we'll be looking for a new airport manager. Ours is leaving and going on to new things, so we're wishing him well. But in the meantime, if you're looking for a job and you have the qualifications, we're looking. Then we're also looking, we've been looking at this for a while, but it came back up. The airport's considering expanding their hangar operation and using some more space that they own. And so they've been considering different designs and what the impact of that would be and what potential tenants would look like for those hangars. At the Sonoma County Mayor and Council Association meeting, we did hear a presentation from a nonprofit called the Individual and Family Support Network. There's a few things that they're looking to do in our county. They want to help 2 age groups, the advanced elderly between 70 and 90 years old, and they'd also like to help transitional youth. They are looking to do things like disaster preparedness, looking for grant money for food during those times and for helping people that can't cook for themselves, improving evacuation routes and shelters for some of the stuff we've all seen in recent years, and encouraging us to build disaster-resistant structures out of concrete. The SCMCA will also be working closer with the county this year to work on broader issues that affect all of us. At Parks and Rec, the biggest thing was that the Kavanaugh Pool is now reopened. I went last Wednesday to go say hi to everybody. They were very happy to be back in the pool and excited and seeing their friends again. And so, they're very happy. They do have some things they'd like to work on, and I know staff's been working really hard with them to try to meet those accommodations. And so, now going forward, I'm sure staff will continue to do that in good faith and keep the peeps happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we close out the last week of February, it's hard to believe how quickly 2026 is already moving forward. I had the opportunity to visit several local schools this month and speaking with the high school students about the responsibilities of serving on the city council. And it was especially meaningful because I encouraged them to apply to volunteer for our 250th nation's birthday celebration in Petaluma. It'll be called Petaluma Youth 250, and it offers local youth a chance to be directly involved in the historic milestone. Interested students can email me or reach out to the Petaluma Historical Museum for more information. This effort is particularly close to my heart because 50 years ago, I served as the youth representative helping Petaluma celebrate the nation's bicentennial in 1976, and I was honored to serve on the city's committee at that time, and it's now inspiring to know and encourage new generation to step forward and serve. At Happy Heart Preschool, students continued their beautiful tradition of making Valentine's for the Senior Cafe Meals on Wheels recipients. I was delighted once again to read stories, sing songs, provide craft projects and supplies for the children as they created these heartfelt cards. Before Valentine's Day, I delivered their thoughtful creations to the Petaluma Senior Center, spreading smiles across generations. Alongside members of the Petaluma Chamber of Commerce, I participated in a ribbon cutting for a new business in the Plaza South Shopping Center. My chamber leadership class also completed its final dedication and placed a plaque on a public art statue at the Miracle League field. It's a wonderful example of community, collaboration, and civic pride. I'm sorry, I'm rushing. I also attended the mayor and council members' dinner with the Vice Mayor DeCurley and council members Cater Thompson and Shribs. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for saving me 5 minutes here. In addition, I met with Cool Petaluma to discuss progress on my neighborhood block with my co-team leader and to meet with 2 AmeriCorps members currently supporting their efforts. More information will soon be available regarding neighborhood response groups and neighborhood messaging boards. Stay tuned and look for these with the QR code to find out more about Cool Petaluma, and they're also in front of my house in my little library. Also, I attended a homeless and housing collaboration meeting with the County of Sonoma regional leadership and the Homeless Coalition. This work group continues to foster strong partnerships along cities, counties, and service providers while promoting shared responsibility and coordinated actions on the homeless. I was pleased to see on the agenda tonight regarding a letter to the League of California Cities, which aligns with our discussion. We also are reaching out to our elected state officials to provide data, trends, evidence-based practices, our shared goals, including coordinating governance, funding structures to strengthen homelessness. Response models, aligning funding streams to maximize impact, reducing duplication of service administration burdens by leveraging shared resources infrastructure to improve efficiency. Together, through collaboration and commitment, we continue working towards meaningful solutions for our community and our unhoused population. I'm glad to see that the North Bay Animal Shelter will be on the agenda for our next meeting. I would also like city staff to update council and the public on the EKN monies that are owed. We've had other businesses owe us money, and we have liened their property. So I look forward to those discussions and updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quint.
Thank you, Mayor. At the February 4th PBAC meeting, we participated in a hearing to review a draft RFP for a citywide wayfinding program. That's an effort that's being funded by a grant from MTC, and I can tell you that everybody in that sort of arena is very excited about that, and so we appreciate Bjorn's work in bringing that forward. At the February 17 TAC meeting, we reviewed and provided input on the alternative transit service reduction options. Petaluma Transit is currently facing a material funding shortfall over the next 3 years. Note, the tentative agenda currently has the transit service planning workshop scheduled for the April 6th council meeting. That workshop will be a critical step as we navigate through this issue. February 7th, I was proud to represent Petaluma at the Sonoma County Veterans Hall for the Hall of Heroes induction ceremony. Appreciated that opportunity. And on the 14th, I participated in the Petaluma Little League District 35 umpire training clinic. And so I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shribs.
Thank you. For events or activities to report, I did go to the mayors and council members meeting, and the one thing that my takeaway from that is that there was a long discussion about ICE and events and how we're going to work together, and the county is actually taking a lead role in this using the emergency services department folks, along with all, and every city chimed in. It's going to be a very coordinated effort. Whatever happens, we're going to be working together. And so there's a very strong movement here within the county, not just our city and the county, but we're all going to be working together on this issue. So just so everyone knows that is happening. I also attended the Petaluma Blacks for Community Development. They have the exhibit at the museum on the Black history. So everyone go head on down, and a lot of history of what's happened here, what they've done, who was involved, and how it has evolved. So it'll be up there for, I guess, another month, everything. So get a chance to get down there and take a look at it. The following exhibit is going to be on tidal wetlands, and I'm on the team that's helping develop that. So anyway, that's coming up in April. So anyway, so look forward to that. I attended a webinar that was given by a financial expert working on affordable housing, and they're saying most of what we're doing is really good, except what we're missing is the missing middle, and the missing middle is a little bit smaller housing and housing units. Folks are converting their ADUs. Those are small operations doing development, but the big box, that apartment buildings or multiplexes that are being built tend to be built by corporations, and with a lot of extra funding that's involved. And then what's missing is what's in the middle, the duplexes, triplexes, quadruplexes, sixplexes that need not the corporate world, but actually need local developers and also local monies. So we need to be talking to our local banks like Exchange Bank and Redwood to see if they can help support our middle, little bit larger, younger construction folks to maybe get more development from them in looking at smaller, achievable property changes. So instead of a single house, so a single house would go away, fourplex, quadruplex would go in of some sort. And that's the missing middle that we really need to work on as a city, because otherwise our current plan, we have lots of options for corporations to come in, and we have lots of options for ADUs for individual small little operations and to do work in individual homes. But that missing middle is something that I think we need to be working on. So anyway, that was a long, nice discussion I had there. Opened my mind up a little bit to the possibilities of coordinating and helping that happen. Then the fourth one was PG&E has a technology center as well as a hazard center down in San Ramon. So I got a half-day tour of the two operations down there, and it's pretty amazing. The technology that they're working on for doing overhead cables, underground cables, working on that high and low voltages, and the research that they've done. I actually saw demonstrations down there. And they're really working hard on EV charging, bidirectional charging, as if it can be done. It's very difficult what they're dealing with, especially when you're combining a solar unit with a battery unit with a car all in one house, and yet other house doesn't, and then how much energy is being used, how much is being brought back in. It's extremely complex and very difficult to work with. So that was one thing we saw out there. And then the hazard system, I looked up there and walked into a room, a very large room about this size, and there was about 20 to 25 computer with big monitors, huge monitors as big as these things up here, all around the place. And they are watching, using AI tools to watch the hazards for their, not only their assets, but they deliver all their information also to all of the emergency crews on all levels throughout the entire Northern California, 2/3 of California. So they're actually monitoring all the hazards, doing that. I was very impressed with their operations and their improvements, what they've done over the last 10 years of how to go from 6 people to 20 people on their site, just looking at how to save lives and make more efficient outcomes from if there are fires or downlines or anything like that, and the support that they're giving to all the emergencies. So I just want to give a shout out to PG&E. What I saw, they are working really hard on these issues. So that's my report for today.
Wonderful, thank you. I appreciate your comments about the missing middle section of housing. I think it couldn't be more topical now that we're rushing our general plan, and theoretically government's job is to have good permitting rules and good guidance, and states given us a lot of strong language but it's all going into our general plan. It's tough to move the economy, but we have to be our part perfect. So appreciate you bringing that up. From my committees and commissions, I sit on the Measure O Mental Health Oversight Committee for the county, and with all the funding reductions that are coming from state and from feds for mental health and for homelessness, it's really good that we have a local source of funding, this Measure O. And so from the Measure O monies, they put out a call for funding, and they had $12.5 million. $36 million worth of requests, of course, come in. But of the 10, Petaluma got about $850,000 directly for some of our projects directly. And then COTS works predominantly here, pulled in nearly $1 million of that. So, of a countywide $12 million, pulling 2 of it into Petaluma's. Once again, our applications bat above their weight class. So it's good that we have the staff that puts that together. Also wanted to compliment staff on getting the animal services issue right to the council next week. It's horrible and it needs to be addressed right away. And then I love the PR I saw on the reopening for Kavanaugh Pool, because, that had got us sideways with public's desires. And we told them what we were going to do, and then we told them when it was going to be done, and then we opened the doors just like we said. So kudos to staff for getting that all delivered. And then with that, I'll pass it to our city manager for her report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and community. Join us this Thursday from 6 to 8 at the Petaluma Community Center for Caulfield Eli Safety and Pavement Upgrades. That is a mouthful. In our commitment to create safer streets for all, the City of Petaluma is planning safety and mobility upgrades on Caulfield Lane from Payran to Garfield, and Eli Boulevard South from East Washington Street to Freights. We will have a meeting to learn, to share the proposed improvements for the community, ask questions, and share what you want to see on these key neighborhood corridors. Some of the work that's going to be is proposed is pavement reconstruction, intersection enhancements, new and improved crosswalks, protected and buffered bike lanes. So again, it's this Thursday from 6 to 8 at the Petaluma Community Center. And if you want to receive project updates, just go to the website and look up Caulfield Eli. And that'll be it for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thank you very much. That brings us to our consent calendar for the evening. And at this point, I look up and down the dais to see if anyone wants to specifically have a different discussion on any of the items. And not seeing any, then we'll treat the whole of the consent calendar as one. But I'll open it up for an opportunity for any questions on any of this before we move it to public comment. Vice Mayor.
I had one question on item 6, and that's the letter of support for AB 1708. I was just curious if we know what local nonprofits do we anticipate will be able to benefit from that legislation, as well as how they'd be able to apply that money to help people in our community.
And we have staff stepping up to the microphone to help us with this.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I helped prepare that staff report, but I'm not the one that's most skilled in the housing department. I think we have a bunch of folks out on that. I would expect that we'd have COTS.
May I ask a different kind of question? So the ordinance or the proposed law is about taking the money that currently goes to the nonprofits and bringing the cities in as higher eligibility. So we could get the money, not the nonprofits who currently get the money. And no doubt we would then turn around and give it to those nonprofits, but we would have some guardrails on what we wanted. So I think the nonprofits that currently get, we can name a few in our community, but what this is about is seeing if the city can get the money directly.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's fine. And I'm just curious how it will all work.
Yes. Anyone, other questions on the consent calendar? Not seeing any questions, let's take it to public comments.
Is Patrick going to answer the question? Or?
I'm thinking that was the answer, is that the nonprofits there's no new nonprofit eligibility in this. This is kind of a reduction to nonprofits. Do you want to know who might be reduced? Is that? No,
not necessarily. I'm just, again, to see, which ones we may be supporting through this and how that's going to end up benefiting the community in the end.
In our region, COTS is the dominant player for all this particular type of money. And is there another name you want? I mean, as we go to the county, and right now with the money is distributed at this Continuum of Care Board through an application similar to the thing I was talking about earlier with Measure O money, and it is not guaranteed that money come to any city. It gets distributed based on the merits of a project. Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily get a Petaluma share.
I can add to that, Mayor. So historically, COTS is, you're correct, that's sort of the primary shelter provider. Other entities, I'm thinking about PPSC, Rebuilding Together as others. And it really depends on, we just went through this, the county just awarded for this funding availability, but it depends on the need. So as the need changes, as the different funds fluctuate, we'll continue to work together with our housing and homeless service providers to ensure that the priority is given to the projects and the people that are in most need. But PPSC COTS would be, the two at the top of that list.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Okay, public comment, please.
We didn't receive any comments ahead of time on the consent calendar, but at this moment, I will start a 30-second clock. So during these 30 seconds, members of the public wishing to speak should bring their speaker cards to my desk if they have not already done so. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
We have 3 comment cards for tonight, so we'll set the clock at 3 minutes. And our first speaker will be Nicholas Harris, to be followed by Chantel Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to speak on the request to agendize a discussion about the lien. It's really what's not on the agenda. And I want to start off, gaslighting is a form of persistent psychological manipulation designed to make victims question their own reality, memories, or sanity. I love your smile. It's wonderful. Often to gain control, it involves tactics like denying events happened, trivializing feelings, and blatant lying. You're gaslighting, Janice. You're the only one here doing it. Facts.
Mr. Mayor, we have some decorum?
Excuse
in the
me.
room, please.
This is my time.
Actually, let's, no, actually you have to be in line so let's carry on in decorum.
Facts.
Also, excuse me, is this is comment on the consent calendar, is it not?
Right now, we're on the tentative, consent calendar items, and you please correlate anything you wish to say to this item that we're speaking to, the consent calendar.
Yes, I'm speaking about the consent calendar and the tentative agenda and the item that was requested to be on there that is not.
Thank you.
EKN stated they don't have funds to pay the debt. EKN is investor funded. They have a poor track record. It's a controversial project. Without a lien, EKN could sell the lot and shirk the debt. The development agreement is between Petaluma and EKN Petaluma LLC. And so is the title of the property. If they sell the property before a lien is perfected and filed, how is the city going to recover that money? Our money. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chantel Rogers, to be followed by Darren Rackison.
Hi. Item 5. This is from the City of Petaluma's proposed Fairgrounds Free Speech Activity Guidelines, which is a 29-page document detailing the restrictions the city intends to solidify concerning the free speech and right to assemble and demonstrate of every Petaluman. Quote, the city recognizes that during times when the Petaluma Fair is not in session, certain areas of the fairground may be accessible to the public for recreational use and resemble the character of a public park. However, these areas are not dedicated public parks within the meaning of traditional public forum doctrine. Rather, they remain part of the multi-use, event-oriented venue subject to operational needs, maintenance, and permitted uses. Temporary recreational accessibility does not remove the city's ability to impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions or other reasonable viewpoint neutral regulations consistent with the intended use of property, consistent with the fairground's overarching status as an event-focused venue. Wow, I thought we acquired the fairgrounds to maintain access to all as a public park. I guess I got that part wrong. Quote, City finds that the fairgrounds are operated primarily as an event-oriented venue and are not generally held open as traditional public forum. It's the policy of the city, nevertheless, to allow free speech activity wherever said activity is not inconsistent with the normal operations or activities of the city. Nice. City finds, however, that due to the unique nature of the fairgrounds, there is limited access, necessitating creation of free expression zones. By establishing designated free expression zones, the city seeks to ensure that those engaging in free speech activities may do so without unduly interfering with others while maintaining public order and safety. The guidelines go on to detail a dizzying array of restrictions and requirements in order to express your freedom of speech, including where you can, when you can, and such micromanagement as to how many and what type of tables you can set up, and a registration form that you should fill out to reserve your place in the free expression zone. In this day and age, when all we have left is our right to free expression, I find it inconceivable that the city would put out such a severe and draconian document to hem in our First Amendment right. Did you all read all 29 pages? I hope you do so before you vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren Rackison is our last speaker.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. I have to say, unlike the prior speaker, I did not read all 29 pages, but whenever I see in this day and age guidelines about free speech from any government, local municipal government all the way up, your hackles get raised and you get concerned, what are we talking about? And the fairgrounds is also going to be subject to, and it may already have existing surveillance on the site, and with the new public safety facility, there will be cameras facing out that way. So you start to get the impression that the fairgrounds has free speech rules, cameras on you. We don't want this to become like a panopticon. We want this to be a nice open park. So I wonder if maybe staff or someone can characterize how these rules are planned to be implemented. Is this merely protection against DXE? Does this have some grounding? Or again, this may all be framed in the report, but I think it's worth speaking to because it is a pretty big implications with that document. And I also want to flag for any members of the public, I really appreciate there being the mid-year budget update on the next tentative agenda. I think a lot of us are really keying into where money is spent is policy and is our signal of values as a city. So we want to really pay attention to that and start learning more about it. I know I'm on that journey of learning more about how that process works. So the next meeting, the first week of March, will be a big mid-year budget update that is going to be well worth anyone's time. And then finally, I just want to echo, I don't know if I have as much passion around the lien issue other than in working in and around a lot of construction industries. It's really standard when you get an agreement signed for $10,000 to build a deck. There are whole companies that will automatically file a lien against that property right when the contract is signed. It in no way prevents that developer from moving forward with their project. It is not some kind of indictment. I don't think ECAN would take it personally and think the city is trying to penalize them in any way. It is merely a filing that puts it on record that we are in line alongside likely other creditors so that if something does go sideways, our investment in this process and this property is protected and the people's money is protected as we've kind of gone through this process. And I would say, again, this would be pretty standard practice. If it's not, maybe, that's something I've just never been privy to with a project before. But again, you read some of these emails where the developer is saying, and I think it was Mike on their team saying, look, we don't agree, we need to pay this money. It's we got to start doing something to defend ourselves if we really think we have a claim. And again, it in no way inhibits the developer from developing their property, moving forward with whatever style of hotel that they're about to go through the discretionary process on, just kind of a prudent measure. So it would be great to see that agendized and talked about, even if it's just to get an understanding of this issue and frame it and contextualize it from clearly people in the public who are interested. So thank you.
Thank you. I think public comment brought up provocative points about the fairground free speech, and I'd like to see who from staff would like to try and synthesize what our objective and how the function goes. Turn it over to you, Mr. Danley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the questions from the public. it sounds like it is not necessarily obvious from the quite detailed policy, but its purpose is actually to protect free speech rights of attendees at the fairgrounds, and also to preserve, to balance considerations consistent with the free speech rights guaranteed under the U.S. Constitution and the Liberty of Speech Clause in the California Constitution for members of the public attending fairgrounds events, while also preserving the city's ability to control when public forums for speech are created, and also to preserve the city's ability to engage in what is called government speech, examples of which are the city's special flying policy. Apparently that's a tongue twister for me. Also our creative crosswalk policy, examples of which are the creative crosswalk, the rainbow crosswalk on Kentucky, and our Black Lives Matter mural in front of the fairgrounds. Those were government speech exercises in accordance with the council's policies for that in fact I know have been models for other cities to adopt. So we did get some expressions of concern from some attendees at the last fair about being confronted by messages that they didn't want to have to be confronted by at the fair. And so one of the things that the free speech zones does, in accordance with, it's actually the state law, the Liberty of Speech Clause under the California Constitution, and it's called the Pruneyard line of cases that provide for, even in commercial spaces, free speech zones. You see them in airports, for example. Sometimes you see them at places like Home Depot. So what we're really trying to do is provide guidance for staff, guidance for members of the public, to ensure that all those rights of expressive activity are preserved, that we are able, the staff is able to follow the council's direction and provide for a continuing, increasing programming and public access for all kinds of different activities and events at the fairgrounds, and that we do that consistent with free speech rights. So that's really what that is intended to do. Those are kind of fact-specific situations that the policies are intended to address. I think, we have reviewed them. We're careful about the preparation of them. That's the purpose, and to the extent they need clarification or updates as our fairground uses continue, we'll be glad to provide those and to answer questions of the public or staff about them.
And I'll just add to Mayor real quick. This is common for any fairgrounds. Just checking the website today of every fairgrounds that I could locally, they all have similar guidelines. This guideline was based off the states that was upheld recently a couple of years ago. So it is right in line with what the other states and fairgrounds are doing in the state.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Councilmember
Tom.
Quint,
Yep.
did you have a comment to make on this one?
He just answered it. I was going to ask, does this put us on the fringe, or does it sort of bring us into the fold? And it sounds like it's just bringing us into the fold on what's normal. And I suspect that we didn't have this sooner because we really haven't had the fairgrounds under our control sooner, right?
Correct, and it was due to those complaints that we received last year about the organizations that were allowed in, and this will allow the city better control of allowing who we speak, or who's the organizations that will speak for us within the fairgrounds.
Okay, Councilmember Shribs?
Yes, and I did read all 29 pages, and I did ask questions, which got answered, of similar nature as what we heard here. And I asked for a little bit more specific examples, which I did get a fair amount of examples in the response, so that's available, I believe, online to take a look there. But I was still looking for a little bit more. It says I would like to see the actual workings of what actual concrete examples, rather than theoretical type things. And so here's an example that I'd like to make sure get answered, because we have it is an open gate in the front. You can walk in. We have open fields, and there's event centers in a lot of buildings and event areas where people have their event. We want to make sure we protect that so that those are not disrupted inappropriately. But we still have some public areas that are just open ground and only used when the fairgrounds fair is here. So on those open grounds, which is sort of like our public park area potentially, can people come in and gather, and maybe while they're gathering, because we have folks going on the Washington Bridge now, we have folks downtown, could they gather in on that bare ground, grassy area right in the front of the fairgrounds? Because it looks like from this, they can't, or we would actually go in there and remove them under the language that I'm interpreting. So what is that? So give me some more concrete examples of what would be allowed, what can happen in the public areas of the fairgrounds.
Sure.
Before we step in and say, oh, you're against the rules here.
Yeah, so within the fairgrounds, those areas during the fair or other events, there is a spot for the free expression, and that's outside, and that's to not interfere with the other patrons and just emergency services. So that's that question, I think.
No, I'm talking about when there's no activity there right now. Someone went there right now
Yeah.
and went there, decided to protest Trump right now, as some folks are doing around town. Could they enter the fairgrounds and do it right there in the open spot in the fairgrounds?
So I'd like to add that Dylan's obviously correct in what he said about the current free speech zone identified in the policy. I anticipate that there will be others, and they will vary depending on the event in terms of how they're configured, because the zones can't be some hinterland where no one has access, because that's kind of, that's overly restrictive of expressive activity. But the other thing I want to mention and confirm under the policy is that currently, in terms of forum analysis for expressive activity and exercise of free speech, the fairgrounds does not have the same status as a traditional public forum like, say, Walnut Park does or Lucchese Park does. It hasn't been established as that kind of a forum yet. There may be parts of the fairgrounds as a result of the master planning going forward that actually are designated like public parks, like the space where I'm losing my bearings. That over there, that's a public park where we have signage that gives the public information about some of these things. They have hours of operation because there's not overnighting permitted and things like that. So under the U.S. and California constitutions, forum analysis applies. And in those traditional public forums, like public parks, like rights of way, like sidewalks, where it can be done safely without risk for safety, those are the zones where people can do things like picket and soapbox and all that stuff. But the fairgrounds property is not designated as that yet. I suspect there will be some designations like that as a result of the master planning process. So it's not, folks can get special event permits, and they can coordinate with the police department on planned demonstrations. And our police department, we're lucky that we have the police department that we do because of the way they engage with organizers, not to restrict that activity, but to support it and make sure it's safe, even including how the streets are crossed and things. So safety is maintained. So the short answer, that's the explanation. The short answer is no. People can't just show up go within the fairgrounds within the gates and stage an event that's not a permitted event in coordination with our Parks Department, who's managing it. Currently, the way, in terms of the legal status that the fairgrounds has in relation to forum analysis. And that is actually a very important thing to preserve the controls that the city has to not have a forum inadvertently created that are similar to the controls we have, for example, that allow us to put banners and murals on our parking garages or on our standards in the city streets, so that we're giving city messages and don't have to receive or permit what may be competing messages that the city doesn't stand behind.
Good. Yeah, I was looking for some clarity. I think you've answered most of that. And so at this point, then, as my concrete example is, if a group of protesters decide to march in and actually get onto the lawn area, then the expectation is we will call the police and they will be removed from internally from the fairgrounds and has to go to the free space outside or something like that. As a concrete example, is that the actual implementation of this policy?
I think what I would say is hopefully we would have a chance for our police department and our office, if necessary, to work with them to redirect their expressive activity to a place where it's permitted and safe. That's how we try to engage. And we're also fortunate that our community members who, there's a lot of, who are finding a lot of occasions to want to exercise their free speech rights of late. And they're very helpfully reaching out to city staff and the police department about how to do that safely, and we're glad to support those efforts.
And I was just going to add to Councilmember Quinn's question about where this, if this brings us in alignment, this policy actually provides a lot more flexibility than the states. There is, like Eric said, the working with the free speech, the organizations to find a new place. There's appeals. It's really last case kind of scenario before we cite you for trespassing.
Okay, so this just needs to be known, so as we transition the fairgrounds from what right now is an event-controlled space to a public park space in sections, that this would be part of that policy that's be implied in those designated areas. So that's just for awareness sakes and what this all means. So I just want to be clear and more concrete about all the language and the actual implementation of this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And if the council or members of the public have other questions, we'll be happy to address them.
Thank you very much on all that. I wouldn't disagree with the description that this is a very legal written document rather than public-friendly document, but I think it's exacting because for just that reason. So,
right, it's to guide staff. But if there's a desire for it, we can prepare an FAQ response, put it on the website about to translate some of these things so people have a better understanding.
Thanks. And Councilmember DeCarli?
I know you've kind of answered it in chunks here and there, Eric, about this, but what besides the zones? Are we not able to enforce anything right now as it is, like regular laws, the way the police department works, the way they can remove people if need be? Or, besides the zones, what are we gaining from this entire document?
We can, the fairgrounds is city property. All city laws and federal and state laws apply there, so we can control it just like any other city property. So we have full control. What this policy does is demonstrates and supports our full compliance with the public's expressive activity rights, while preserving our rights to, maintain the peace, maintain public safety, all those things, run our events successfully, all that.
And I'll just add to that too. I think the two main things that this really benefits the city is, one, it's a city curated programming. So the government speech within the city fairgrounds during events is now we can select the organizations. We'll invite those that are speaking for the city, where previously we didn't have that and we had to allow any organization to come in. So the second one is it allows us to create reasonable time, place, manner restrictions in those free speech zones and in the city programming. So one of the restrictions, regular time, place, manner restriction is, hey, if a patron walks by, you can't follow them and try to, harass them and say, sign my petition or whatever. So it kind of sets a reasonable time, place, manners kind of on what the allowed speech is during those free speech zones.
So we would actually be inviting groups in?
For the city program curated showcase, yes. Those that are in alignment with the theme of whatever the event is.
Okay. And then, again, this was something you sort of answered already, but is this going to become a standard practice at all city properties and facilities?
We haven't discussed that. I think this will be sort of a guinea pig to see. I don't know if there's too many properties out there that are special and unique like the city fairgrounds.
Does this apply inside and outside of a building like the Lucchese Community Center?
This is only within the fairgrounds.
But the way we treat this is like we wouldn't let harassment follow someone into a building, but on the street side at Lucchese, That's an,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo, and maybe just listening into the conversation, just clarify. I think the point I really wanted to highlight, and from the experiences from last year's fair, is there were specific organizations that we couldn't preclude that were present during the event that were approaching families and individuals, displaying materials that were inconsistent with the values and the objectives of a city fair that is, I think, what we as a city wanted to have as part of our goals and our vision for the city fair. There were materials, there were visuals, there was really graphic materials. It was in an area that was highly visible, highly trafficked, and there was nothing in place that we could preclude that event and that organization from being not present. And so really, my staff, my team was asked to limit the exposure of that group to other community members, to ask them to not engage with community members, which we could not limit them from doing. We could not ask them to leave. We could not ask them to stop, and we could not uninvite them. The city had no recourse to limit them, exclude them, or discourage them from doing any of those activities. And so this is really intended to allow for the city to have discretion opportunities to determine whom can be present during these events. And if they are not appropriate for being in a permitted event, there is an appropriate venue where they can be designated to still afford their opportunity for free speech in those designated spaces. I think that we also, Park Director Drew Halter and I are working currently on an event, a free speech assembly. And one of the things is we have other permitted events that are often in public spaces that individuals that are going to have a public demonstration don't often check whether there's another conflicting permitted event on the calendar. And so if you might have a permitted event that you've reserved that space, you would be very unhappy to find out that someone just comes in with 500 people and disrupts your permitted event that you're sanctioned for, you've paid for, you have insurance for, and now you are impacted by. And so we want to make sure that we are deconflicting those things, and that we are also affording to and redirecting those individuals to an appropriate place and affording them their constitutional right to have that free speech. And so we're just trying to put those parameters in and still affording everyone their right to properly demonstrate their free speech. So hopefully that can provide a little bit more context, but we're not trying to limit anyone's right to continue their free speech. We're just trying to put it into the appropriate places and allow it to continue lawfully and reasonably.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah. Mayor, for your
Thank-
question about Lucchese, or?
no, I'm willing to take that one back. I was starting to draw a metaphor, an analogy, and that sometimes goes sideways. So, Councilmember Barnacle?
Yeah, I understand how it can be unsettling to see any sort of limitation on free speech. I'll say my niece and nephew show livestock at the fair, and I don't want them to be presented, when they're showing their chickens with a bunch of dead chickens as if they're creating that. There's the Jewish community has their youth camp there. I don't want Nazis protesting right outside the Jewish camp. We have the Pride show there. They have their event. I don't want people sitting there right outside their event with signs to say these people are pedophiles and they're mentally ill. So I think it's worth and everybody probably has their thing, but if that's the sort of free speech that we want to tolerate in Petaluma, that's not, I'm not your council person. I want those people to be able to have their events, and I want them, I don't want farmers' debate to be disrupted by 1,000 people that are, all of a sudden, now the farmers can't actually go there and sit in the stands because there's people there. That's what this is preventing. It's not, this isn't draconian anti-free speech. This is trying to make sure that, honestly, different people who are using the fairgrounds can use it for what they intended without having to be, honestly, I'm not even going to say it. But anyway, I'm happy to move the whole consent calendar, and let's move on.
And I'll be happy to second that.
So we have a motion from Barnacle and a second from Gator Thompson, and everyone's had a chance to say their wishes. Let's have a roll call vote.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Wonderful, thank you. And that takes us to what we're going to call item 9, which is now our next thing on the docket. It's the introduction, first reading of an ordinance to update radar enforceable speed limits on Freights Road and I Street within city limits. And to help us out here, we have Bjorn Griepenberg.
All right. Good evening again, Mayor and council members. Got a hopefully quick and relatively straightforward item, excuse me, tonight to introduce an ordinance to update our radar enforceable speed limits on sections of Freights Road and I Street. Just a quick overview of how speed limits are set because it's not entirely obvious or intuitive. So we are required by law to collect an engineering and traffic survey on all arterial and collector streets within the city. Now every 7 years, it was previously every 5 years. Our last citywide survey was done in 2020, and conducting a survey requires having clear and dry conditions, traffic moving at free flow speed so you avoid the peak hours when there's congestion. You need to get radar speeds on 100 vehicles, at least 100 vehicles traveling in each direction. And so once you compile all of that data, you round, you look at the 85th percentile speed. So the value, if you took 100 speeds, you would look for the value that is preceded by 84 data points and followed by 14 data points. And so you take that speed, you can round it down or up to the nearest 5 mile an hour interval. That's at our discretion as staff based on engineering judgment. If it's below that halfway point between 5 mile an hour intervals, you can actually round down an additional 5. So say a speed comes in at 42, you could round down to 40 and then round down again to 35. And then in 2022, we had some major changes to through state legislation, Assembly Bill 43, that revised guidance if certain conditions are met. And I'll cover that here. So this was AB 43. That enabled us to reduce speed limits within our downtown commercial business district to 20 miles an hour. So we've already done that. It allowed us to reduce school zone speed limits within 500 feet of schools to 15 miles an hour. We've done that. And then it also provided guidance on what the state is referring to as designated safety corridors. There's several different criteria that can be met to qualify as a safety corridor. Examples include collision history, proximity to major activity generators like schools or parks, bicycle and pedestrian activity, somewhat at the city's discretion, but it cannot exceed 20% of our city street network. So that's a bigger, not only did the guidance for those identifying those safety corridors lag behind the other two components of AB 43, but it's obviously just a bigger undertaking, one that will really require a comprehensive look at all of our city streets. So we will be bringing that back to this council later this year for a big round of speed limit updates to comply with that new legislation. So tonight we did pull out 2 corridors that were prioritized due largely to community input and requests from our community to take a look at reducing speeds. So the first before you is Freights Road between Eli Boulevard South and Lakeville Highway. The current posted speed limit out there is 40 miles an hour. When we surveyed this back in 2020, our 85th percentile speed was 43. So with that survey, the lowest we could go was the 40 mile an hour speed limit. In the past several months, we collected a new engineering and traffic survey and got a new 85th percentile speed of 41 miles an hour. So like I said, that allows us now to round down to 40 and then round down again to 35, which we recommend due to the surrounding residential land use and bicycle and pedestrian activity, and really with a lot of input from folks living in the Southgate neighborhood. Our second corridor that we are recommending for a reduced speed limit is I Street between Grevillea Drive out near city limits and Sunny Slope Road. Current posted speed limit out there is 35. Our 2020 survey came in at 41. We recently made some changes out there to attempt to slow traffic. It's an area kind of like Freights where it's a rural to urban interface. You go from the county section of I Street to the city section with very little change in the roadway characteristics, but obviously there is a change in the land use context. And so our goal here was to slow traffic as it enters and leaves the city from between the city and that rural context. So what we did was we installed a bunch of median islands that really require drivers to, as they enter town or drive through this area, requires them to do so with a little bit more caution and awareness. And we have seen success in this change as far as its ability to slow traffic. So our new 85th percentile speed when we surveyed it was 6 miles an hour lower than it was back in 2020. And so this allows us now to recommend a new posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour, down from 35. So our recommendation tonight is to introduce an ordinance to update the radar enforceable speed limits on Freights Road and I Street consistent with the findings of the engineering and traffic surveys and applicable provisions of the California Vehicle Code. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
Great presentation. Thank you very much. You know, I'm actually certain that council's going to be tying questions and comment all into one. And so I think I'd like to ask the clerk to open public comment at this period and tell us if anyone online has mentioned anything.
We did not receive any comments ahead of the meeting, and I haven't received a card yet.
Do we have anybody that wishes to speak tonight? So we have Christine White to speak first. And I see no other cards coming forward. So this is our speaker for the public comment.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation, Bjorn. I know we met before with residents from Westridge Knolls, which is where I live, as well as residents on I Street. And at that meeting, we said, why don't you lower the speed limit? And you said that wouldn't help. So you put in all these chicanes and et cetera that in fact lowered, and now you're going to lower our speed limit. But my question, I guess, is at this point, the speed limit used to be 40. It was lowered to 35, and it seems like that's working. So why are you now recommending to go an additional 5 down when it seemed like the 85% were going 35, and that's what you were looking for, and now you want to lower it to 30? I guess that's my comment. Why? What's the need for that? So I'll fill this out.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we close public comment and bring it up to the council. And I think I'll take a deference and say, Mr. Green, would you please reply? Reply.
Happy to. Yeah. So obviously, you know, the 85th percentile rule it's an interesting way of setting speed limits. It tends to favor kind of the higher end of that distribution of speeds, obviously just by its very nature, right? If you're thinking about that distribution, we're really not at the top of the bell curve. We're kind of on the outer end where the fastest drivers are. And I would say that generally speaking, really in consistency with not only engineering judgment, but also our city policies, our emphasis on Vision Zero, we would like to move speed limits and street design speeds down closer to the middle of that bell curve. We're really aiming more for as much as possible, as much as we can within the confines of the California Vehicle Code. We would like to encourage slower speeds wherever we can. And so our practice generally is to push the CVC as far as we can with slowing speeds. And that's not in really in an attempt to worsen traffic congestion or to punish drivers. It's to improve safety on our streets. It's to reduce the frequency and severity of collisions. The faster people are going, not only will collisions be more frequent? They will also be more severe. So that would really kind of be my overarching response to why we're generally pushing the CVC and our enforceable speed limits as low as we possibly can within that guidance.
Great, thanks. Councilmember Cater Thompson?
And doesn't it have something to do with if you hit somebody or a bicyclist, if you're going 35 versus, or 40, 35 versus 30 or 25 life expectancy?
There's a chart that we've shared in the past. The expected survival rate when a pedestrian is struck by a vehicle going 20 miles an hour is 90%. And that number reduces to 10% at 40 miles an hour. And then the other piece I'll add to it, with reducing speed limits, you're really not, and slowing traffic, you're really not actually worsening traffic congestion. Congestion is a function of what's happening at intersections, not necessarily what's happening in mid-block or free-flowing areas. If you took, a trip across the town at 20 miles an hour versus 40, you're talking about very negligible time difference. It's what's happening when you're hitting those traffic signals and intersections that's actually going to start making a difference.
Thank you. Councilmember Now?
Thank you for that presentation. The I Street is so different from Freitas. It's like apples and oranges. You can't even compare them. I Street is a very dark corridor in the evening. It doesn't have a lot of light. There's a lot of older tree shading the light. And I think that those new medians should have some sort of reflector or even flashing lights, because I'm surprised that they haven't been struck by an automobile, because there's a lot of wildlife on I Street. Real early in the morning, you see the deer coming across the street, and in the evening, you see the deer. And real late, it's the fog. It sits on almost the ground. And I've come from friends' houses after dinner, and it's very dark and foggy, and you really want to slow down, but those new medians really need some reflectors. And then we have our bicyclists, and there's a lot of activity on that street, either runners, walkers, or bicyclists. And so I am 100% for reducing the speed in that area. Freitas, I have some questions. That is a truck route. It is the main truck route from Petaluma to Sonoma going on Freitas. If you're slowing the vehicles down, will that help the residents in Southgate? There's been numerous complaints about the rumbling of the trucks going down Freitas. And we don't know if it's the road conditions or if they're going too fast or the type of truck. I'm not an expert there, but there's cracks in their foundation, their sidewalks. It's very disruptive to the Southgate residents' lives. So can you help us answer those?
Yeah, so the goal with the reduced speed limit on freights and the reason it really got this attention was largely community input that we received from residents in the area, including in the Southgate neighborhood. And so the goal here is, and the reason we took another look at it is to try to reduce those speeds largely to, for the benefit of residents in the surrounding area. And then as far as I Street, I will say that, so the striping in the roadway, and it also includes reflective markers in the roadway, and those, the signs and the plastic delineators all should have reflective elements, but we'll take another look and make sure everything that, that reflective tape hasn't been peeled off, for example, because sometimes that does happen. Make sure everything looks good.
And also, if they've been hit, they get the black skid tire marks over the top of it, and then they're peeling off. And when that fog is so low, I don't even know if the reflector tapes will really work that well. Because if you're going too fast, and I know to slow down, but I'm a grandma. I'm driving with a special cargo. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quint?
Thank you. I'll try to make this super quick. I just want to use this as an opportunity to express my appreciation for staff's work. I think particularly on freight. I know there's been a lot of community input, a lot of meeting on I Street, but specifically with freight it is a truck route. There are more trucks that travel on that road in a given day than any other road in Petaluma, except for perhaps Lakeville. And this will make a huge difference. So where I think staff got this right, community members reached out. Peggy and a couple of members of her team, along with Chief, went out and met with residents. And what's unusual about that is when you're on freights and you're driving on freights, it doesn't feel like a problem. But when you go and you just stand off on Kelly Ranchero and you watch the traffic going by, is when you really recognize how disruptive it is. And so after staff met with community members, within a week they had already made adjustments to the signals, and now this is coming to having this come to fruition. I just really appreciate it, and I think it's a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCarli.
Thanks for the presentation, Bjorn. I'm curious, and this was sort of asked in public comment, but the medians, was that not enough to reduce speeds on I Street?
No, that's exactly why we took a new survey, was to see how well the medians reduced the speed. So yeah, like I mentioned, our previous survey in 2020 was 41, the 85th was 41. Our new one with the medians in place now 35. So that allows us to set a new lower enforceable speed limit out there.
So the purpose of the medians was to get even a little bit extra out of the whole thing to further reduce it to a total of 10 miles an hour?
No, the previous posted speed limit, the current posted speed limit out there right now is 35. And so what we are, like I described, what we're doing here is recommending lowering it an additional 5, rounding down to 30, just to stay within the parameters of the California Vehicle Code, and again, kind of pushing the enforceable speed limit closer to the average speed rather than looking at the top end speeds.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, with the medians, they've been a concern of mine for a while for a lot of reasons. I've said it before, but I feel like the more obstructions you put in the road, the more dangerous you of a situation you're creating. And so, I mean, do you see the medians as, you know, if a car and a bike are trying to go through those at the same time and a car has to deviate around that, is that a more likely scenario for a cyclist, runner, anybody to get struck? Because now the car's not going straight?
No, I wouldn't say so necessarily. It's the intent behind that design and behind any feature you see added to a street that introduces that's called horizontal deflection, when you're basically making drivers maneuver something, as opposed to vertical deflection, which would be speed bumps of some sort. The intent is to force drivers to pay attention. And we know in this day and age that drivers are increasingly distracted. Vehicles are faster and built with higher hoods. There's just a lot of factors that lead to increased collision frequency and severity. And so when we introduce elements like these in a roadway, we're trying to give a cue to drivers, hey, you should probably pay attention to what you're doing right now. And that'll not only encourage attentive driving, but it'll also encourage more cautious and slower driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, as far as the survey from the public and neighborhoods to do this, I remember when the medians were added, it was just a very simple letter with a handful of signatures, some just first names. I mean, what kind of measures did you take to now reduce it another 5 miles an hour? What kind of input did you seek?
None. So this is kind of I would say this is a standard practice that when you make major changes to a street, go out and collect a new engineering and traffic survey, see what the effects have been, and then evaluate whether a new speed limit is appropriate. So this is akin to what you would see if we were out after a major paving project, for example, that introduces some new traffic calming design elements, we would collect a new survey because the conditions have changed. And so we considered these conditions warrant or in our minds, at least a recommendation to lower the speed limit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle?
Thanks. Super excited and supportive of this. Just going to recap a bunch of other stuff. Our local road safety plan has found that speeding is by far and away the biggest issue that we've had. Former Chief Savano, I'll quote him until I die, said that death and injury from traffic accidents on a good year is 2 to 1, and on a bad year is 3 to 1 compared to violent crime. So this is like, we're dealing with some of the biggest issues in terms of public safety in our city with this. Just looking at the data, if you're hit by a car going 40 miles an hour, you have an 80% chance of dying. If it's 30 miles an hour, you have a 40% chance of dying. And if the car is only going 20 miles an hour, you have a 90% chance of living. So what we're talking about here by why we're trying to continue to drive this down is to save lives. Quite frankly, it's about public safety at the end of the day. And so I'm very appreciative of this. Also, I just want to point out that I know sometimes people don't understand all the wacky stuff that Bjorn does to our roads, but it does work, right? We reduced the speed 6 miles an hour. That has a notable impact on people's likelihood of living if they get hit on that street, and animals too, deer, things like that will get hit in the night and things like that. So I'm very supportive of this. I'm very supportive of your work, as you know, and I'm happy to move the item again.
I'll be happy to second that.
All right, we have a motion by Barnacle and a second by Cater Thompson, and Councilmember Shribs has yet to weigh in.
Okay, just to support, again, what's already been said. I've biked and driven on both those roads, and when the chicanes went in on I Street, I have a pickup truck and I tried to get through. I really did have to slow down consciously. So actually that made me work a little bit harder. And so I totally agree with that, and getting that, and then we have to match the physical with the actual limits. So that's all really good. Councilman Now also mentioned some things about that I Street on Freitas. I go to Sonoma, and then from Sonoma, sometimes I go down to the park to Schollenberger. I also do that on my bike. So, and it's a little bit, it's for the speed on Freitas, it's especially they're coming in from Sonoma, stop sign, and then they're really hauling down to Lakeville. So that is coming from Lakeville, not so bad probably, but coming down, and probably it's the trucks that are still speeding, and then all of a sudden, they have a curve they have to navigate, and they're throttling down. And that's the bumping and the loud noises coming in from them throttling down. So I support all that, and I just want to reiterate a point that you made. We need to really say this time and time again: the congestion's from the intersections, not from the thoroughfares. I've done a number of calculations looking at how much time do I save or lose by going 65 miles an hour on a freeway versus 60. And that we're talking about less than a 5% difference on the hour basis. And in town, we're talking about for travel across town, maybe it's 20 minutes. So you're adding 1 minute by slowing down. And a 1 minute, I don't think, I'm very efficient, but I'm not so efficient that 1 minute is going to matter in what I do at the end. So, and there is this culture that you mentioned about, I've seen the anxiety increase. I've seen the speeds now increasing a little bit there. So we need to slow down everything on every road, everywhere, if we're to maintain a civilized approach to everybody. And car culture needs to settle down and get calm. So anyway, I just wanted to comment that fully support this and do more of it in other places. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll also note that I'm in thorough support of the program as entirety that you're leading us in. And, ironically, we opened the South Boulevard roundabout some time back, and I've had people come up to me and said, "It's terrible. I have to slow down there." And I think, yeah, that's the point there, you know, I mean, so similarly, I appreciate that you modified original designs on I Street, listened to the neighbors, and looked at the data that we're achieving out there. But everywhere I go in town, the number one issue people want to talk about is speeding. There's no other consensus issue other than speeding. You know, a lot of people are happy about this or that, but everybody is unhappy. And you have to realize it's not them speeding, it's all us speeding, it's everybody speeding. And so when you put it into structural design of roads, that where it doesn't look like a speedway anymore, and where you have to pay attention. I mean, my God, if you hit a concrete object in the middle of the road, you'd hit a deer, you'd hit a child. I mean, you know, I don't know why we have an empathy for somebody who hits concrete when instead of the concrete, it would have been a kid that they hit. So I fully support what we're doing here and pass it back to Councilmember Cater Thompson.
Just quickly, Chief Miller, the other day, I believe that you said that Petaluma has very little crime, very little, but speeding is the bigger issue, is what you stated or made a comment at the award ceremony. And I appreciated that.
And that's only because we don't have enough officers doing speeding work.
Yeah, we continue to live in a really safe community, and I would echo the comments from Councilmember Barnacle that unfortunately, former Chief Savano's comments continue to reign consistently true. We continue to see more fatalities and deaths in our community as a result of tragic vehicle collisions than we do from violent crime. So, thank you.
You know, and I think we all appreciate the efforts the officer, the PD make in their efforts to reduce speeding in town and all the work they do. And we appreciate what Public Works Department does as well. And with that, we have a motion, a second, maybe have a roll call vote.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you very
carries
much to
unanimously.
staff for being here. Thank you for the motion. That takes us next to our housing element implementation program, the adoption. This is the second reading of an ordinance to adopt zoning text amendment to modify the City of Petaluma implementing zoning ordinance for zone district allowable land uses, also off-use parking and loading facilities, also administrative procedure, section 2820, the glossary of this item, and the Petaluma City Smart Code, Section 3, Building Function Standards, as well as Section 4, Urban Standards Table, the parking requirements, and Section 9, Glossary to implement Program 7 of the city's sixth cycle housing element pertaining to zoning regulations for residential care facility. And to help us out with this, we have Brian O., our Community and Economic Development Director, Andrew Triple, our Planning Manager, and Emmanuel Ursu, our Principal Planner. So you may.
Permission to waive the presentation, considering we just voted on this already?
This is the second reading, and if we have a straw poll that is in consensus of that, and then
I'd like to see it.
I think we have to respect the member who wishes to have the presentation, but it does not mean that the presentation need be as exhaustive as the first one, as I'm sure you haven't abridged for this one. So please take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a presentation. It's largely a regurgitation of the introduction. So I have the staff available to answer any questions. As a reminder, as part of the introduction, we did not receive any direction to come back with any changes. What we did do in this staff report was to provide some additional clarification and presentation of the proposed parking standards, as that was a question that had come up about concern about residential parking and what this change may make any changes with respect to parking. So that's in the staff report. If there's a question about that, we're happy to answer it, and I have the relevant staff here ready to go.
Okay. That's the presentation. It's a good presentation. Thank you. And council, any questions? Let's go to public comment.
We did receive one comment ahead of the meeting, and I do have one card, but I can start a 30-second clock if there's anyone else who would like to submit a speaker card.
We have one speaker card tonight. It's Chantel Rogers.
So I apologize if this is addressed in the renewed parking that I missed, but I did want to say that I went to the Spirit Living community meeting a couple of years ago at the Mentor Center put on by the project developer. At the end of the presentation, I asked him about the parking and if he'd been required to do a parking study since 29 spaces seems so low for a building with 106 units and 30 employees. And he told me that the parking study that had been conducted for the entire riverfront mixed-use development included his project, and that was how many they told him he had to have. This project was apparently not evaluated individually to determine adequate parking spaces. In addition, Spirit Living intends to have a full-time van and driver available to shuttle employees to and from the SMART station and to drive tenants around. Their hope is that the service will reduce the need for staff and residents to park their personal vehicles on the premises. Spirit Living is also in the final approval stage for its property being built in Strawberry in Marin County. It's a larger building since it's offering more on-site amenities, but it will have the same number and type of living units, 35 memory care and 70 independent apartments. They are planning to build a 72-space underground parking garage. At the last meeting where this was discussed, the city indicated that they were using the Spirit Living proposal as a model for necessary parking for these types of developments. The riverfront mixed-use development site is unusual in its umbrella use of a parking study, proximity to downtown and the SMART station, and its on-site van and driver service for residents. It would not seem an average and appropriate project on which to base requirements of all similar projects. I believe the city should reconsider using this project to anticipate parking needs of future construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that closes public comment for the evening. Bringing it back up to council. Councilmember Shribs.
Okay, so parking was taken care of in written reports, but I just talked to a design person, and just it's on the side of the issue. If we were to have these residences either in a corridor or in the downtown area, I think that's one of the possibilities we were hoping that might happen to construction on vacant lots somewhere, that we would get this done. And so we're applying for everywhere in town. But in the places on corridors and in the downtown area, so in the design standards, is given this situation that we're applying to, do they have to meet the current design standards? And are we missing design standards around the front entrances and walkability and the like, so that the pedestrians have enough view of, so it's not just a doorway with a long wall. We have trees there on the pedestrian area to walk by, so it's a little bit more pleasant. Do we have design standards that run that, like we have some of that in the downtown, 50 foot? Do we need, is 50 foot going to be small enough for the entrances and the like, and for solid walls? Or should we, is that part of this? Or anyway, is there a relationship here to think about as part as this goes, as far as overall design standards?
Thank you. Emmanuel Ursu, Principal Planner. So we include a requirement that projects in mixed use and commercial zones comply with the objective design standards as they pertain to ground floor street frontage interaction with the public realm, with the street front. So That is done specifically to address the interaction between the sidewalk and development on the ground floor.
Okay, so then just going back to walkability, folks, and discussions we've had there in the webinars and things that we're receiving, creating more of a walkability and for pedestrians. Currently, our design standards are criticized because we're not good enough. So in our design standards currently, do you feel that comfortable for this type of setting, that the 50 feet between different doorways or windows type things is that going to function for this type of facility?
Yeah, so they're both objective design standards of Chapter 7 that apply, but also we do have the discretion through the site plan and architectural review that would apply to these developments in the commercial and mixed use zone. So if the Planning Commission or on appeal the City Council felt that the objective design standards did not accomplish what they're intended to, I think we have through the discretionary qualitative standards of site plan and architectural review the tools to be able to require additional changes or additional elements, project elements to address those concerns.
Okay, guys, so even though we're giving a free rein to folks to come in with all this facilities, they still have to apply to all of the requirements that we have, and we have ways of controlling what actually happens. So it's not a total free rein, just come on in and do whatever you want.
It is not a total free range, correct.
Just making sure we're clear on that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments? Councilmember DeCarlo?
Well, I just want to stay consistent with the first reading on this. You know, parking aside, I don't like seeing the potential for mixed use buildings downtown to become care facilities, like any of them, any of them right downtown, our old iron fronts, that or you know, commercial being mixed with this. I mean, it's in kind of the name of you know, making things more flexible and easier. We're kind of diluting our zoning code by doing things like this, and we've been doing lots of actions like this. And so, you know, to stay consistent with the first reading, I don't think I can support this.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle?
Yeah, and I just point to the enormous need for housing in our community of all types, including residential care facilities. And so for that reason, I'll definitely be supporting this again. I think to the point of objective design standards, Veronica Olson, the letter that we received was pretty thoughtfully constructed. And I'd encourage us to look at that and see if there's any updates that we could make to our objective design standards to incorporate some of that input. But with that, I'll move the item.
Appreciate that input.
And I'll second.
And we have, so we have a motion from Barnacle and a second from Now. And if we're good, then I'd like a roll call vote at this time.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
No.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1 with Councilmember DeCarly voting no.
Thank you very much. Thank you, team. See you on the next housing issue. So that brings us to our final item of the night, item 8, which is an introduction. First reading of an ordinance amending the cross-connection and backflow control regulations contained in Chapter 1509 of the Petaluma Municipal Code. To help us out with this, we have Chelsea Thompson, Director of Water Resources and Utilities, sitting in the back, and Dan Herrera leading from the front, Deputy Director of Operations.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff, and members of the public. My name is Dan Herrera. I'm the Deputy Director of Water Resources and Utilities. And the item you have before you is the introduction of an ordinance amending cross-connection and backflow control regulations contained in Chapter 15.09 of the Petaluma Municipal Code. Now, this is necessary to make sure that the City of Petaluma is in compliance with new state regulations that have come into play. We have a presentation starting off tonight, so it's going to introduce our cross-connection control program and these municipal code updates. So the agenda for tonight, we're really going to kind of let you know, define what the cross-connection control program is, show some key elements of that program,
identify some state water board requirements that are in play, highlight the Petaluma Municipal Code revisions, show you how we are preparing to meet these new requirements, and our next steps and what the program schedule is going to the future. So what is a cross-connection control program? It's a public water system's requirement to protect the drinking water supply from contamination by preventing backflow from a customer into the public water system. Now, these can happen in a couple of different ways. One is back siphonage. So when you have a loss of pressure into the public system, say like a main break, you have a negative pressure, it feeds water into the system from customers, or you actually have back pressure, which is the site has a pumping system, some at an elevated pressure, which pushes their water into our system. How do we protect our systems? Well, essentially it's a backflow prevention assembly. There are many different kinds. So some key elements to the cross-connection control program. So it's a regulatory requirement from the State Water Board. The adoption establishes legal authority through our municipal code. It requires a citywide height hazard assessment. This identifies potential hazards that will require protection. It defines the requirements of backflow prevention elements to meet these state regulations. It ensures that the city has trained personnel through certification requirements, and then it also requires annual backflow testing and record keeping. So here's some of the essential state water board requirements, so things we've already completed. So in July of last year, we submitted our cross-connection control program to the water board. We've updated our city standards and specifications to meet those new requirements that came from the state. So all city standards for backflow preventers, they already comply. So any new construction that's being done meets those new state requirements. We're in the process right now of updating our Petaluma Municipal Code. And then our next steps are a site hazard assessment. It's a 2-year process to kind of go through basically every parcel within the city of Petaluma. And then ultimately, we have to ensure site compliance with backflow requirements within 10 years, which is July of 2035. Here's some highlights for municipal code revisions. Again, more in the staff report. These are more detailed, these changes. But ultimately, there's the removal of Title 17 language from the municipal code and replacement with the cross-connection control policy handbook. So Title 17 was the old California Code of Regulations. That is no longer in play, and the Water Board has now adopted the cross-connection control policy handbook, which we've installed. Hopefully what this does is this, if we make some changes to our city's cross-connection control program, hopefully we don't have to make changes to the Petaluma Municipal Code to enforce that. So the code includes new or improved definitions of water system and cross-connection control program elements. It includes new cross-connection program personnel certification requirements. It updates site, premise, and backflow preventer requirements to meet those new standards. It updates backflow device testing requirements, and ultimately it incorporates title and department changes that we've undergone in the last couple of years. So the next slide shows just kind of an example of what, if you're wondering what the actual device is, and then what the new regulations entail. So what you see here are fire flow backflow preventers. They're double detector checks. They got double, and they're above ground. So we have in the city a lot of underground single checks that are going to need to be updated. And then also the new backflow you see on the bottom, these are RP, reduced pressure devices that go on into our new, say, single family residential when they have sprinklers installed in their homes. So how the city is preparing. So existing staff have completed required specialists in testing and certification. We're also really evaluating the staff needs to meet these requirements. We have a couple deadlines that are pressing, and we want to make sure that we have the staff and the organizational chart to meet those deadlines. We're looking at our software and programs. So we have current backflow software that we utilize. We have a new billing system, new GIS. So making sure that we're on the cutting edge with incorporating that information into our processes. And we're also engaging in consulting services. So we have a consultant that assisted us with our program and with submittal to the state. And we're also having a third party help us with our citywide site hazard assessment.
So this is a really big one. So the next steps, what's really happening next is the citywide site hazard assessment. So essentially all water service connections, all 21,000 of them, require an assessment to identify potential hazard to see if it's going to need backflow requirements. We have a consultant under contract to perform this assessment, and it needs to be completed by December 2027. Some of the priorities, we have city facilities, we have commercial, industrial, institutional. Those are really the ones that we're really looking at. We have fire protection systems, but ultimately we have to evaluate every single site. So we do have single multifamily residential as the last phase of the program, of the site hazard assessment. So our program schedule, so again, we're going to be completing this by 2027. The site hazard assessment. We're going to come back once that's all done. We're going to kind of compose a report, come back to you with those results and let you know what exactly is going to be necessary to make sure our system is protected. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at compliance in phases. Our single check fire systems are going to be kind of the most necessary. They're not testable. They're really at a risk of our system that's the highest risk. We have our CII in compliance by 2030, but ultimately full compliance by 2035. And this last one is just a little bit of why it's kind of necessary. So this is actually right outside City Hall. On the left, you'll see what normally everybody sees. Double texture check. It's right next to, it's actually next to a sewer manhole. But if you actually uncover the ground, you see it's a maze, a network of pipes and backflow and checks and valves. And it's just things like that are all over the city. And just we need to make sure that our system is protected. So in order to protect our distribution system, from the maze of network of pipes, we have backflow prevention on our distribution system. And that is my presentation. Here to answer any questions or comments you have.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Shribs?
Okay, great. I do irrigation work, and so I understand backflow required in even a lot of irrigation stuff.
Sure.
And this is really, but this looks like it's totally necessary, required by law. It was needed for safety, pretty standard stuff that we need to just do. Why isn't it even coming before us? Is it because of budget? Well, this shouldn't even come to consent calendar. It's like it's automatic. You just do it because it's an OSHA requirement type thing.
Because it's our ordinance that needs to change. I think that's the requirement for any side. Anytime we change our ordinance, we have to have a first and second reading.
But I love the sentiment. Thank you very much.
Just checking as why we're here to hearing about this.
Right,
If that's what it is, that's all. If that's all this is, then great. We just do need extra money in the budget to do this.
We will come to that. I think in a year and a half, or in 2 years in December, we may need to tackle that to make sure that what's necessary to make sure the city of Petaluma's residents are protected, right? So once that site hazard assessment is done, we're going to see what that animal looks like, how many sites need to be protected, what that looks like, and then we'll come to you with solutions.
Okay, sounds like a no-brainer. Okay.
So one thing with this, I think what we're moving into is not just the parks and the commercial that I've always known they needed this, and irrigation connections where they're putting fertilizer in right in the potable line right after our connection. But I think what we're moving into with the fire sprinkler business is that we will have tremendous personal impact to residents who have modern fire sprinkler systems. So there's going to be a big individual. I mean, maybe the city budget, we can always find, I don't know how we're going to do it on the city level, but I know even less how we're going to do it on established residential customers. And so that worries me. And the assessment will tell us that kind of problem.
Yeah.
My question, though, I'm really hoping that our recycled water system that we've invested in pipe and plant for will get used for residential communities. And I'm not sure if we're already moved into the HOA area and we're serving HOAs yet, but I think that's like one of the primary expansion efforts. But at some point, there's going to be even down to more personal levels, and that all of those, right, will need this kind of setup and system. And so there'll be even more personal. In order to get our recycled water where we want it, we'll be needing to have other things that are in place and impacting.
Right. I think, Chelsea, I think we've addressed a little bit maybe in our integrated water management master plan. Might talk about the use of recycled water in different areas. I think right now really focusing on the water systems. And you're right, the single-family residential with the sprinklers, that is something that we're looking at. They're going to be addressed in that site hazard assessment. What's important going forward, like every new development, everything that we're doing now is under, we are regulatory compliant with all that.
Yeah, I do appreciate that about all future development. They're the most economical in every sense. The insulation's better, the water conservation's better, everything's better. It's all of us that bought a house yesterday or some long ago that are going to have see this more. Councilmember Barnacle, do you have a comment? Okay. Anyone? Let's move it to public comment.
We did not receive any comments on this, and I have not yet received any cards, but this is the moment to submit them.
And not seeing anyone standing and rushing to the podium, we will close public comment. Back to council for any comments or a motion.
I'll make the motion, but I'll also say that, our water system is important. And I know this isn't as sexy as other things, but to me, this is the most important things for running a community and making us safe. So I'm happy.
Good. That's a motion from Cater Thompson, and we all support the second motion, which is that water is so important. And do we have a second coming?
I'll second it.
And a second from Councilmember Now. And may we have our roll call vote?
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. And before we adjourn, I want to note that tonight we will be adjourning in honor of Jesse Jackson, a great contributor to our whole nation. Thank you very much. Good night. This meeting is adjourned.